Let me introduce you to one of the proud supporters of From the Hawkeye of the Storm, Iowa floor covering down in Bondurant. Now, for the last year and a half, you've heard me talk about this great company in the heart of central Iowa. They've got their tough core, click together, 4.5 millimeter waterproof vinyl flooring, great for you DIYers out there. But even if you're just a contractor or you need a different type of flooring, they've got you covered, whether it be tile showers, carpet. Give Iowa Floor Covering a chance to serve you better and serve your flooring needs. Visit them online at iowafloorcovering.com. That's iowafloorcovering.com, or you can give them a call at 515-379-7000. That's 515-379-7000. Thank you to Iowa Floor Covering in Bondurant. Big thank you to Brad Van Meter and his State Farm team down in Des Moines. Of course, win or lose, they're saving people great money on all types of insurance, auto, life, homeowners, motorcycle, boat. Just go down the laundry list, whatever you need to save money on. And basically, we all need to save as much money as we can, literally everywhere. So be sure you call Brad first thing Monday for your free quote, 515-256-6480. That's 515-256-6480, or visit him online at bradvanmeter.com. Also, this great company, Iowa Smokehouse, boy, they've been with us for several years. So loyal. We appreciate their loyalty. And, of course, show your loyalty to the show and to our great sponsors by visiting iowasmokehouse.com. And you'll make your taste buds happy. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order. Shop now. Spend $50. You'll get free shipping right to your doorstep. Don't leave your couch when all the football action is ongoing. Again, iowasmokehouse.com, free shipping on $50 orders and 15% off your total order by using the code Hawkeyes. We are here discussing Iowa's narrow loss to the Indiana Hoosiers on this Saturday, 20-13, the final. So much to get to. I'm Corey Brady, your host here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We're waiting for Coach Don Patterson, who will be joining us later on in the show. If you're new to the show, there's a few ways you can interact. Of course, we have a live chat. We appreciate Iowa Smokehouse for sponsoring our phone line. You can call us on StreamYard. We will have our phone line open as well, but StreamYard's always the preferred method because you can chat with us by video or just make sure you get in the queue. The phone line is limited to 2 phone users at a time. Our StreamYard is not. So be sure you, if you can, log on, call into our Iowa Smokehouse line via StreamYard and interact with us. So much to get to with this game, folks. And I'm certainly not going to come on here and talk about how I was right, because I wasn't. I had Iowa winning. I had Iowa winning by 3. You can probably guess where my frustration lies. I think the frustration of a lot of Hawkeye fans. But, man, a lot of people counted this team out, and what we just saw was exactly what I expected to see. Minus 1 or 2 plays that in the end you can't change, you can't have back. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. Iowa has figured out a way, oftentimes late in games in Kinnick, to win with last-second field goals and plays. And in the end, Iowa wins. I have the score wrong, don't I? Do I have this final score wrong? Let's get Alex into the mix, man. Alex, let's get Alex into the mix. I normally don't do this where I hop on a show before the game has officially gone final. But was there a safety there at the end?
Yeah, so it was 4th down, and they, instead of punting it, they just ran it back for safety. So yeah, whatever. So Iowa got a.
Whatever.
Hey, if you picked Iowa to cover, I mean, I guess you won some money, I guess. But I mean, maybe a little
they were up to, the line was like 7.5, wasn't it? 8.
I saw 8.5 in some places.
So either way they covered, but a little salt into the wound. Give me the first 7 minutes of the show officially. I had the wrong score posted. So 20-15 is the final, a 5-point loss. And I'm not going to get on here and gloat to Indiana fans, but the bottom line is all of those people were wrong. Alex, they were all wrong.
Yeah, I've been saying I kept hearing that Indiana's going to crush Iowa. Indiana's going to do exactly what they did to Illinois, and I was just like, I don't think so. Indiana was down like 6 of their defensive backs. They're on their 3rd stringers during that game, and one got kicked out due to a very soft targeting penalty, in my opinion, in that game against Illinois. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to, again, we're not going to come on here and make excuses either, because the bottom line is Drew Stevens feels awful right now, and it is what it is. I mean, I think it was Vincent came on here last week and called Drew Stevens out. He's been really good, but man, that's a big miss today, and he missed one last week. So he's
Did he miss one against Iowa State?
He did not, but he almost did. That was called good. It was right over the upright. But no, I mean, the bottom line is like he's got to be better, and you can't have these back. These are the games you play for. If he makes that kick from whatever it was, 42 yards, does Iowa win this game, Alex? I think so. I think probably.
So yeah, I think because on that last touchdown by Indiana, they don't send an all-out blitz. They play their base defense, and
totally different play calling. Like the whole scenario changes if you're down by 3 as opposed to playing with house money in good field position. Keep in mind, they got good field position because of the missed field goal. So this whole game changes if that field goal is made. Now, you can't play the ifs, ands, or buts game, but it is reality that kick didn't decide the game, but it was, if we were going to come up with a big play of the game in the opponent's favor, it would be the missed field goal. I mean, I don't know what else you can call the biggest play for Indiana. It was Iowa missing a field goal. So you
could call the at the end of the second half where Iowa, gave up like 20 yards. Sure. And it, as an Iowa fan, everyone, obviously a little biased. That soft. I think it was a pretty soft roughing the passer penalty.
I had people say that, Alex. I need to look back at it again, because to me, people don't need to get mad at me for this, but the view I had on Peacock, I couldn't tell whether it was a weak call. I know a lot of Hawkeye fans were saying it was weak, it was a hard view for me to tell. Was it weak, or did Kenneth Merriweather actually extend his arms to the point where he's asking for a penalty flag in that situation?
So he put up his hands to block, and he turned as the ball's going, kind of watching the ball, and he's getting blocked into Mendoza.
And if that's what happened, then it's the wrong call.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Speaking of calls, I am so frustrated that Wampa hit on Mendoza completely clean. He was in the field of play, didn't step out of bounds, completely clean. What happened after the fact? There should have been flags on Indiana's bench for unsportsmanlike conduct. You could see Wampa get up, and you see all these Indiana players start shoving him to the ground, and it's just like, where's the calls for that? And that's something that really angered me. It's just like, you gotta. It's like, I don't know. That would probably infuriate more than the roughing the passer call. But
yeah, I tend to agree with you. I tend to agree with you. I made the comment when it happened. I'm like, and I didn't understand what if it was an offsides penalty, what are we huddling up for 5 minutes about? I don't quite get. I'd like to know from the officials' standpoint, why did that take a 5-minute huddle up to come up with an offsides penalty? Either it was offsides or it wasn't offsides. The flag is thrown immediately, and regardless, you called the offsides penalty. There was something funky going on there between the officials, because that was a strange delay in rhythm for the officials just to pause the game and discuss this and then call a weird offsides penalty. By the way, I didn't even see. I did go back and look at it. Maybe you saw it. I didn't even see the offsides penalty.
Not really. It was when they replayed it, it was a bad angle. Speaking of, okay, so two things. One, the officials, from my understanding, was they were talking to Kurtz like, okay, you have an offsides penalty. Here's the down and distance. Where was the quarterback out at when he got hit out? Did he make the line to gain, or is he short? That might have been the conversation. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not there. Speaking of which, I posted on X on this. I hate that games are on Peacock. For one, I had issues, at least for the start of the game. It got better as the game went on, where it would cut out. I had to go leave the app, go back in to actually even start streaming the game. Number two, the announcers I just didn't care for the announcers. Now, that's just, a personal opinion for me. But like some of the angles they were showing outside of like, it's under booth review where you could see all the angles that the refs are seeing. Some of the stuff that they replayed, I'm just like, don't we have a better angle of this? Like that offsides penalty and everything like that. So I bit the bullet and got a subscription to Peacock. I hope Iowa doesn't play another game on Peacock. I don't watch basketball.
I know you don't.
Just not my sport. I watch wrestling. Until they put wrestling on Peacock, once the season's over, as long as Iowa doesn't have another game, I'll cancel that subscription. But
so wrestling, wrestling is not on Peacock?
No. Okay. It's not a big enough draw. It's usually on you got to watch Big 10 Plus, then the champion, the Madness, or March Madness, I should say, is usually on ESPN, usually in the championship rounds. So, but so I don't know. So we talked about Drew Stevens. I don't think it's him. It's the entire special teams outside of Caden Weege. Now he had a bad game, but he's kind of rebounded from that. You got a block punt that thankfully didn't, went a little bit, about 29 yards. And then you have Drew Stevens missing kicks.
Well, it's the hard part is Drew is 2 of 3. That's the hard part. And he made a 50-plus yard field goal. So it's not like he was horrible the whole game. He missed one kick at a horrible time, horrible moment that was inside of 50. But the problem is he also missed a 40 last week. And if he's some great, there are rumblings early on here this season that he's one of the top kickers NFL scouts are keeping their eye on heading into this next draft class. So if that's the case, these last two games where you miss a 40, you miss a 42-yarder, those hurt you, especially pressure kicks, because he's been really good under pressure in general. He's made game-winning kicks at Iowa. And to see him, and that kick wasn't even close. He just hooked it. So
I feel like he's trying to just boom the kick. He doesn't care where it goes. He's like, I'm gonna just put everything and show that I can make it from 70. And it's just there's times where it's this is why we have you, but you need to have a little finesse to it too. And
I'm not a kicking expert, Alex, but I'm going to say this real quick in response to your comment. Based on what I know about kicking, which is very little, guys kick the same on every kick. they're taught to kick the same on every kick. So he's not going to finesse a kick because it's inside of 50. That's not how that works.
It all depends on the yardage. Your longer
No,
kicks
it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
So let me explain that.
Go ahead.
So if you're kicking a longer kick, you want a lower trajectory because it travels further. The shorter kick, you can kick it a little higher and have that, draw or hook to it. So that's why when you see kickers kick from 50, they get blocked more often because they have to kick it at a lower trajectory because they needed to travel that distance to get that extra to make the field goal. So when you're talking about difference of style of kicking, it's nuanced. Are you talking like how they actually kick the ball, or like where they kick the ball to, like, is it going to go straight up in the air, or is it going to be more of a line drive?
Okay, but what I'm telling you, and you may not like what I'm saying or not agree with it, which is fine, but based on what I know about kicking, they're not kicking that way. I know what you're saying, that you want a shorter to lower trajectory, but in general, if you're talking, maybe that changes when you're 50 plus, 55, 60 yards. But for, like, you see extra points, guys aren't just chipping extra points in. They're kicking like they would kick a field goal in. So I don't think he's changing his style, whether it's from 20, 30, 40, or even 50. Maybe he changes from 55 or 60, but the way he kicks is the way he kicks. I think that's true. I could be wrong on that, but that's my understanding how kickers.
Yeah, and I could be wrong too. So and I think, did he miss last week from, because he was on, it would be the left hash this game, right? That's where he missed it, left hash. And he missed it from the left hash in Rutgers, I believe, right? So does he just kick better from the right?
Well, normally, I'm not a kicking expert, but my understanding is that it's easier for a right-footed kicker to kick from the left hash as opposed to the right hash.
Correct, but he's missed 2 from that hash part. So
maybe he's just missed 2. I mean, guys do miss field goals. It's so.
I wrote down something that you've always complained about, specifically with Kirk, is clock management. So the last drive.
Yep.
Okay, they had all 3 timeouts.
Yep.
They throw short of the first down. It's like, okay, call a timeout.
Yep.
Call a timeout. Call a timeout. It's different if you get a first down because you get that stoppage of clock and you can kind of set up an offense and maybe burn a few seconds. Clock is running. You didn't get that first down. It's like that was so frustrating for me. It's like, call a timeout. Call a timeout.
I was saying the same thing, and you're absolutely right. And I have in my notes, end of first half, phenomenal clock management. Yeah. Now, it helps when you get a touchdown. And I say that in spite of the fact that the defense then gives up a field goal. But offensively, it was phenomenal clock management. And I couldn't say further than the opposite. I could not say more of the opposite than what we saw at the end of the game. Absolutely. They had 3 timeouts with, I think, 27 seconds left. They're hovering around midfield. They still got all 3 timeouts because, to your point, I'm okay hurrying it up when you're getting first downs and you get a clock stoppage, but you got a backup quarterback. You're coming up on a 3rd down. The clock is moving. You blew probably about 15 to 20 seconds by not burning a timeout. I don't understand the approach to clock management there. And that's a question, and I'm not ripping anybody who goes in that press conference today, but that's my first question. That'd be the first question I ask, given the fact that this game was decided late. Kirk, what happened with the 3? Why did you have 3 timeouts? I mean, because they had the ball with just under 2 minutes to go in the game.
I'm curious, was he expecting Indiana to get the ball back at some point and say, well, maybe we'll just make him punt and put it in our best player's hands? I mean, that's the only thing I could think of. That's the only thing. I'm not saying it's right.
That was there. No, absolutely.
I'm grasping for straws. I'm hanging on a ledge by my fingertips with that one, but that's the only thing I can think of.
The only thing that I can think of is he's thinking, okay, we still got a minute and a half. Let's just hurry up. But that's not the way to approach it. When you know this is your 2-minute offense, you have to utilize those 3 timeouts at the right times. There's no better time with a backup quarterback. There's no better time to call a timeout than when you throw short of the sticks and it's a critical down upcoming. No, that's a total mess up by Kirk Ferentz. The only person responsible, in my opinion, Kirk Ferentz. There is nobody else responsible for that miscue than Kirk Ferentz. The head coach is responsible there in that situation. And if he's got somebody in his ear that's giving him bad advice, then Kirk Ferentz needs to make a change, because that issue, clock management issues, have been happening at Iowa for years. That has not with the offensive coordinator change.
And I wanted to bring that up because I know that's something you've always talked about and this is, and I haven't really looked for it until like it happened at that point. The one other note that I had written down is, so obviously Mark got hurt, but during the game, he's been turfing a lot of balls. Now, I don't know if it's bad mechanics, that shoulder, the labrum surgery that he had is maybe bothering him, and just maybe him turfing his passes, but he had that one to Gill in the second half, which would have kept Iowa's drive alive. I think it was the second possession they had, and it's just like, and he's wide open, and he's not under pressure. He moved out of the pocket, and there's no one around him. Like, why? How are you turfing that? It'd be one thing if you had a guy.
He set his feet. He actually was able to set his feet. I know what play you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's just like, how do you turf that? And, and I see the comments, horrible tackling. Going back to the all-out blitz. Now, in my opinion, I agree with the call. You pressure him, you make him make a play. I would rather see another corner outside of Deshaun Lee, TJ Hall. Maybe you put Wamp on there. Someone who has shown that they can be a better coverage guy. And Deshaun Lee missed a tackle. There's no way around that. But that's the only thing I could maybe gripe on with that was, again, I agree with the call. Like, I like the call to blitz the quarterback, all out blitz, but maybe have a different coverage guy.
I actually disagree with that. I disagree with that, and I'll tell you why. I'm not debating
the call or the person we had covering.
No, I made the comment when it happened. I thought Phil had called a couple of really well-timed all-out blitzes, right? I mean, the pick by Lutmer, which, let's be honest. Can we just be honest here? The game should have been over after the Lutmer interception. That should have sealed the game. That's how Iowa wins games every single year in this position, every single year. And as you're watching this game, and it's 7-0, then it's 7-3, then it's 7 or 10-7,
10-7,
and it's 10-10 in the fourth quarter. You're like, okay. I mean, we were all thinking it as Iowa people. We're all sitting there thinking, okay, here we go. This is Kirk 2.0. This is how he wins close games against good opponents in Kinnick. Yes, he hasn't done it since 2021, but this is how he's always won close games in Kinnick. Whether you're talking about the blocked kick by a punt by Adrian Claiborne back in 2009 against Penn State, or you're talking about the 2016 field goal by Keith Duncan against Michigan, or you're talking about all those games against Nebraska where you get a game-winning field goal. The way Iowa wins games, when they may not be as athletically sound or as gifted talent-wise, they hang around, they play that bend, don't break defense. And all of a sudden you look up and you're the opponent and you're like, wow, we got 10 points. And then all of a sudden at the wrong time, either Phil dials up the right play at the right time and it forces a mistake, or you just make a mistake and give Iowa an opportunity to win the game on the foot of a field goal kicker. And that's why Drew Stevens feels bad. I'm not here to rip Drew Stevens, but the blueprint for winning this game was almost there. It was almost to a T. Like, yes, you don't want the nonsense at the end of the first half. You don't want the pick on the first drive of the game. I get that. But the reality is the fact that it was 10-10 late, and then all of a sudden, it's 13-13, and you have the ball in plus territory in field goal range off an interception from Lutmer after an all-out blitz from Phil Parker's guys. Game should have been over at that point. And that's why Drew Stevens feels so bad right now. Yeah,
and I think the one thing is that Indiana did really well, except for on one punt, is they kicked the ball out of the end zone when they scored, did not even give Weegan a chance. There was one time where the ball was about 4 or 5 yards deep, and it was about the same spot where he fielded it and took it to the house for Rutgers. As a fan, I'm looking at this saying, this is your best weapon on special teams. This is probably your best weapon on your team. Get the ball in his hands. Let him make something happen. I'd rather have him try to bring the ball out, get tackled on the 15, and then rather than him not bring it out. Because he's shown, hey, if I can get the ball in my hands, I mean, we saw it on that, that what was it, the end around, or where they rolled out to the right and they threw it back to the left, and he made something out of nothing. He could have been tackled for a 3-yard gain and got, 16, 17 yards out of it. It's like he wants to make the play. Give him the chance. Give him the opportunity. As a fan, I'm like, I want to see him in the ball in his hands because he's shown that he can make the plays.
Yeah, I think the biggest question, I'm not disagreeing with what you just said. In addition to late game clock management, because what are you going to ask LeVar Woods or Drew Stevens in this situation? Like, you miss a field goal, you feel horrible, and you just move on, right? But to me, the biggest thing that you got to wonder is, why was Gronowski, what is his diagnosis right now? And we're going to get Tom Kakert on. Tom is expected to hop on with us this evening. What is his diagnosis? Because he's not in the locker room, He left the medical tent with a brace on his leg. What is his diagnosis? I'm not a medical professional, but I want to know what his diagnosis is, because with all due respect to Hank Brown, he has no business being in the game in that situation if Mark is even capable of being on the field, even if he's not a mobile threat at that point. If he's not a mobile threat, okay, his arm is better than Hank Brown's, regardless of what people say after watching the Kids Day Open practice. In that situation, down 3, just tie game, but down 3 late, man, get Mark in the game. And again, I don't know his injury situation, but that would be the biggest question, I guess, in addition to late clock management, I would have for Kirk.
Well, I didn't mind that Hank came in for that first series. It's like, hey, Mark, we're going to give you
one series. One series is a big difference between 3. One series.
No, I'm saying it's okay. It's like, okay, hey, Hank's going to go in for this series. We want you to keep warm, because if you're feeling good, you're going in. But so stay warm. And he was on the bike. He's pedaling. He looked like he was moving fine. So I'm going to spin this into somewhat of a positive. I know we don't know his injury. I think Mark showed us that he is capable of making those throws and being the quarterback we thought we were going to get. He made some big time throws, wasn't much of a mobile threat. He didn't run a whole lot as he did in the Rutgers game, but he showed poise in the pot. Now, I did talk about him turfing that throw to Gill, and we talked about Iowa drops. They had, I think, one drop. I think that's credited to, was it Vonderheim that on the very first series hit him right in the hands or something, like that.
Yeah.
Maybe. So, and I think we hit a bye week at a great time, because you saw Harrell go out. He did come back in as an injury. Bo Stevens did go out, but he did come back in. That's one thing.
I'm glad you said that, because I did not notice Bo Stevens back in there.
I don't think he came out for that first series. I don't know if he went in for the next series, but I knew he made it back in eventually. And that's one thing I said about the announcement crew, was that, they never noted it, where, these guys that just went out outside of Gronowski is like, hey, they're actually back in the game now. Okay, Iowa's got their full complement of offensive lines. So,
yeah,
Corey, I appreciate you letting me come on here and rant. Yeah. I think Indiana is a great team. I think as Iowa fans, our hearts just got ripped out, because this was the game that Iowa needed to play. Bring them down into the mud, muck things up, and just like, you're going to play our ball because we play it better and we're going to win. And this game was going exactly to that script, and I felt very confident going into that second half. I said, if Iowa can get a stop in that third quarter first series, they have to get some points on their drive. Whether it's 3 points or 6, Iowa will win this game. And I still had confidence Iowa was going to win this game, even going into that third quarter, because Iowa's defense was really holding them down. And Iowa's offense was moving the ball pretty successfully. And then Mark got hurt, and then things kind of crumbled after that. But
real quick, one play never loses the game. But let me ask you this as a fan, Alex. What was the one play that lost Iowa this game? See if we agree on this.
Besides the Surratt touchdown?
Yeah, the costliest play in this game.
It's one or two plays that I think of.
This is difficult to me.
So it's at the end of the first half when Indiana got the ball. Roman Hemby ran the ball, got stopped for 3 yards, and then kept going. He was never tackled to the ground, and that gave Indiana, like, oh wait, if we can get some yards, we can get a field goal out of this. The second play that I can think of would be probably the missed kick. Now, if you're talking specific plays that Indiana made.
No, I'm not talking about specific plays Indiana.
You're just talking in general.
To me, the play that decided this game was the missed kick. And I mean, that can upset people if I saw somebody in here, accuse me, talk about Stevens being an elite kicker. His numbers have been elite up until these last 2 weeks where he's taken a dive, and it's been hurtful. I mean, there's no question about it. And kickers don't get enough credit when they're making all their kicks. And Drew probably wasn't getting enough credit when he was rock solid last year and to start this year. But the reality is his kick in the end cost Iowa a game. That was exactly how Iowa planned to win this game. So it's hard for me to look at any other play other than that. There were other plays that hurt them. It's never just one play that decides a game like this. But to me, the missed kick field goal was the play that decided it tonight. So
Alex, and maybe the screen pass before Iowa missed the kick where he threw it incomplete. I'm like, Moulton's kind of had the hot hand. You hand it off to him again. Maybe you get the first down or not, but you take it to the 2-minute warning and then you kick the field goal. But at that point, you can say, okay, hey, if you don't get the first down, center it, because then it's an easier kick. You're not having to try to veer it off one way or the other. So you can.
Well, this goes back. Listen, I don't mean to continue this call past.
I know. I was trying to get off of that. I had to make.
No, you're good. But let me just say real quick, Alex. Like, I made the comment during the course of the game there in that drive that ended with the missed field goal. I want 7. I don't want 3. I want 7. So, what do you got to do to get 7? And that's why I go back to the question of what was Mark Gronowski's status? Because I had no faith in Iowa getting 7 with Hank Brown. With all due respect to Hank Brown, had no faith in Iowa getting 7 against that defense with Hank Brown. And he's no threat to run. He is no threat to run. And he's a guy with no experience on this stage. Yes, he played a little bit at Auburn, no pressure like what he just saw in that situation. So I would just like to know, was it a coach's decision not to bring Mark in? Was it because there was risk of aggravating an injury? What was the reason? And if it's legitimately because he could not go in, fine. But if that was a coach's decision based on, we thought Hank, even though there wasn't risk to Mark coming back in at 75% good, we thought Hank at 100% good was better than Mark at 75. I would challenge that. Even though I'm not there at practice every day, I would challenge that. So I'd be curious to find out what Mark's diagnosis is here a little bit. So
Alex, bye week hit at a good time. A lot of people getting injured. So get healed up. Who do we have? Wisconsin out on the road. So
yeah.
Hopefully I'll have my gear by then.
You got it. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate the call.
Corey.
All right, folks, we are trudging along here. First 30 minutes. Again, appreciate everybody being here. I see a number of people who are waiting in the queue. Thank you for that. Again, Iowa falling to Indiana. I had the wrong score up here to start the post-game show. Guess it's par for the course on a day like today, right? Somehow messed that up. I was looking at my app and I'm like 20-13 with like 2 seconds left. I'm like, all right, it's fine. I turned the TV off. I'm like, whatever. But then it, obviously the safety there at the end, the deliberate safety makes it 20-15. Iowa did cover the number, but ultimately it didn't matter. A loss is a loss, and Iowa now moves to 3-2, and they'll play Wisconsin next. It's a game Iowa should win in Madison. It's a Wisconsin team that's reeling. They have not fired Luke Fickell, which surprises me a little bit, but it is a game that I think Iowa has a good chance of winning. Big Grove Brewery is the official craft brewery of the Hawkeyes. Check out all their locations at biggrove.com, and you can also check out what they have to offer. But their Easy Eddie is a fan favorite. Of course, their Citrus Surfer, their neighborhood beer, so many great beers. But that hazy IPA, their Easy Eddie, is a fan favorite, and it's one of my favorites. You can check it all out, biggrove.com, or just visit them in person. They've got locations in Cedar Rapids, Des Moines. They're opening one this month in Omaha. They've got one in Cedar Rapids, Solon. Yeah, Des Moines, Iowa City. I think I mentioned those already. So check it out. They are the official brewery, and you just see them everywhere. They're so big, one of the fastest growing breweries in the Midwest. And it's because they have great service, great beer, great food. Big Grove Brewery and Tap Room. Visit biggrove.com. Also, just so everybody's aware, I'll plug this here later, but this is a special announcement. Myself and Tyler Kluver of the Washed Up Walk-Ons, we will be live at Big Grove Brewery a week from yesterday, actually. So Friday, October 3rd, 6 p.m., we'll be broadcasting live from Big Grove Brewery. So if you're in the area or you're up for a little travel in the evening, be sure you come join us, enjoy some great food and some great company, and listen to the show. They're live at Big Grove Brewery in Des Moines. Friday, October 3rd, 6 p.m. Central Time is the start. And again, Big Grove Brewery in Des Moines, official sponsor of the Hawkeyes and from the Hawkeye of the Storm. All right, let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Coach John Patterson. Who's on the line?
It's Tony from Pleasant Hill, formerly Sioux Falls.
Hey, Tony. How you doing, sir?
Good. How about you? I wanted to also give you a quick chance to plug that Discord. We had some good chat going on there.
Yeah, let's get that Discord plugged, folks. If you're new here, get over on Discord because it's been fun already, and we're just a few members in, but that's okay. So yeah, people need to get over to Discord. Label your donation Discord, just $5 a month, $50 a year. You don't have to commit to an extended period of time. Just throw in a donation to our Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal, and label it Discord. You'll get into our Discord. You'll get a unique invitation, and you can chat with us during game week and throughout the seasons ahead. We got men's basketball, women's basketball at the helm here as well.
A couple of things I just wanted to reply to that I was listening to with the call earlier. I think the big delay with the whole call on the offsides and whatnot was Indiana trying to figure out, like, were they going to accept it and what was the procedure there? Because they initially announced, remember, that Indiana accepted that penalty. And I was like, why would they accept the penalty? And then the official said it was fourth down. So if they would have accepted it, it would have been third down. Because remember, he ran the one where Wampa hit him out of bounds.
Yeah, I know exactly what play you're talking about, Tony. The problem with what you're saying is that it was either accepted and it was first down, or it was declined and it was fourth down.
No. If they accepted it, the offsides, wouldn't that have meant that it negated the run?
Right. I know. That's what I'm saying. If they accepted it, it would have been third down.
Yeah, third down.
But
they declined it. Yeah.
What I'm saying is the official announced it. Correct me if I'm wrong. The official announced that penalty as accepted, fourth down.
Yeah. In fourth.
And that's impossible.
Yeah.
And I made the comment going into the break.
That's
impossible. Yeah. So that I don't know how. What does the delay have to do? That was just a missed. Someone misspoke. I don't know what. To me, that's what I think. To me, that was botched.
That's what I think.
That whole situation was botched.
Yeah. And then also to add on to that, you didn't see it because you missed the end of the game. The Indiana coach was going nuts because Kirk used all of his timeouts after every kneel down. That's why the game took so long, and that's why Indiana took the safety at the end of the game, because I think they got it with like 14 seconds left. Indiana kneeled down, and then Kirk used his timeouts. He still had his timeouts left. And he was going nuts after every single time Kirk called a timeout. Now, I don't know if he was mad at Kirk, or he's mad at his quarterback, or mad at the officials, because he said something at the post-game interview on TV about a victory delay or something like that. He's never heard, or he's never had to experience a victory delay. And I was very confused about that, because it's like, well, if Kirk's doing nothing wrong, he's got his 3 timeouts left. It's the only way they can win the game. Why just let him kneel down? I mean, he forced them to do. He forced them to do that safety. Like they snapped the ball and they just ran backwards 30 yards.
I got a lot of respect. I got a lot of respect for Cignetti for what he's done in a short period of time, but he is one of those guys that seems to be a kind of a drama queen. He just is. Like, he likes to make these bold statements that get national attention and, become locker room material. So I mean, I credit them. They came in here and won today, but yeah, who cares if he burned the timeouts? It sounds like, I mean, again, I turned the game off because, in my opinion, the game was over. But again, with 3 timeouts, the fact that Iowa they had 3 timeouts to use, did they not?
Yeah, they had all 3 timeouts. So, I mean, they have the ball, so why not use all 3? It's the only chance you can win.
Correct. No, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. If he's got a problem with that, then go back to JMU. I don't understand why you would have an issue with that, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was just confused by that. And then I also agree, you were talking too earlier about and I mentioned it to Kyle in the Discord, about why dial up the blitz so many times in a row, and then on that big third down play, you leave your corners on an island. Like, if it's against a different, like a lower, not a skilled quarterback, sorry, I would maybe agree with it, but with as good as their quarterback is, as good as their offense is, they're eventually going to figure out how to beat that blitz.
Yeah, the blitz was a big part of the reason why Iowa was able to force that interception that was returned into plus territory.
Correct.
But in my opinion, Phil Parker deserves a good share of the blame because I thought that was a ill-timed blitz. I thought it was just one too many. I thought it was one too many.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Yep. Especially considering the time, the score, the situation, whatnot. You got him off guard with the one, and you made the mistake with the interception. I think you just went to the well one too many times, like you said.
Right. Yep.
It's sad. I'll close with one question. I want to know, and you kind of alluded to with asking, I want to know the update on Mark, but the announcer said he's questionable. If he truly was questionable, like I said, why is he not playing?
I think that's my guess is, Tony, not to cut you off, but my guess is if Peacock made that comment, that's Peacock, their way of saying that's Peacock's way of saying we don't have information, so we're going to call him questionable because we don't know.
Oh, okay. I thought they had to provide that information, don't they, from the sidelines, like that they say. Hey,
I really don't know I don't know the in-game rules on things like that. I really don't. But if he was anywhere, again, if he wasn't at risk of re-injuring himself, I don't know why he wouldn't have been in there at that point. That's my 2 cents. But I'm not there in the sidelines, so I don't know what his status was. But if he's on the sidelines not getting treatment, very strange. I don't have an explanation for that.
And then he had his helmet. That was also what I was like, because usually, you take away the player's helmet if they're not going back in. Like, if there's no chance of going back in, you're taking it. So I almost wonder how much of it was truly gamesmanship on Iowa. Like, he saw his helmet. He could go back in at any time. I don't, you know what I mean?
I don't think, I just don't think Kirk doesn't do that kind of stuff usually, Tony. You know that.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was just kind of like, something didn't add up about it. So, I'll be interested to see what Tom has to say about that with an update. Hopefully the bye week comes at a good time and he can come back then. Hey, thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it. Jeff says, I'm so tired of field goals. We need to be able to score touchdowns against decent competition. Well, field goal would have probably won the game. No guarantees there because Indiana would have had the ball back. But, I mean, tell you what, you need a touchdown at that last drive after the Lutmer interception, right? But you have your backup quarterback in the game. It's going to be hard to run the ball in at that point. I was hoping that they'd be able to do that, but it's 3rd and medium, and they go screen, and it was a horrible throw by Hank Brown. I'm not blaming Hank for it. Just a difficult position to be in, and then you expect your senior kicker to make that kick in that situation from 42, and he didn't. So there's not much to break down. Like if you were a snapper, or like Tyler Kluver might be able to give us an idea of, like, maybe there was an issue with the snap slightly, maybe it was an issue with the hold. I just sometimes kickers miss, and it appeared to me that he just missed. Bjorn says, if Iowa loses the rest of their games, would Kirk Ferentz retire? I'm sorry. I'm not calling you an idiot, but it's sort of an idiotic comment to make. I just, what's the point of the comment? Anyways. All right. Blake, thank you for the super chat. They didn't call the offsides initially. It blew my mind. Should have been personal foul on Indiana for Xavier after the play for making a good tackle on IU. What a joke. I agree with you on that. And look, we can have multiple penalties there, right? We can have multiple penalties there. They're not offsetting penalties because one penalty occurred after the play was over, right? So you have the offsides. You can either decline. IU has the option to either decline the penalty, which they did, which would make it 4th and 1, and Iowa accepts their penalty and make it 4th and 16, or they accept the penalty, which my guess is they would do that. I don't know exactly the order of. I don't know the PEMDAS there, right? I don't know if Indiana gets to know whether Iowa accepts the personal foul penalty before making their offsides call acceptance decision or not. Because my point is, you'd be better off if you're Indiana taking the offsides. It'd be a repeat 3rd down, but then I believe that the late hit would still be enforceable. That's an interesting one, but I don't believe they'd be offsetting penalties given the fact that one happened after the play was over. Thank you for the super chat, Blake, and thank you for being a premium member. Lance Hackett, thank you for being a premium member. He adds with a super chat. Game was over as soon as they scored. When was the last time Iowa had a successful 2-minute drill game-winning drive? 2-minute offense has been a problem at Iowa for a while. 2-point conversion offense has been a problem at Iowa for a while. Clock management has been a problem at Iowa for a while. Passing game is figuring it out, but it did not figure it out. There was no passing game when Mark Gronowski was not a threat. That's the difference that he is making at quarterback. And I hope people appreciate it. I get it. There's frustration. 3-2 is basically worst case scenario for me heading into the season 5 games in, because I just did not see Iowa losing at Rutgers. They almost did. It was tied late in that game, but they won. But 3-2 was about as bad as I could have expected. So that's unfortunate. But Mark Gronowski's playing well right now. And I know he had a couple of dirt balls today, but in general, he made a lot of winning plays. And that was a huge difference, him not being in the game there at the end. Again, Lance, thank you for being a premium member. We do appreciate it. A reminder, folks, visit rtithreads.com. Shop the official apparel lines of Aaron Graves, Jacob Gill, Carson Shire, and that guy, Zach Lutmer, who, by the way, you're going to hear his name a little bit later because he had our big play of the day. I thought Zach Lutmer was really good today. All over the field, they sent him on blitz calls. He was really good in those situations, shedding bigger guys, bigger blockers. And unfortunately, he couldn't return that interception for 6. Wouldn't that have been nice if he could have returned that interception for a touchdown? That's how you seal a game. Certainly not putting it on Zach Lutmer there, because they should have made a kick or scored a touchdown. They came out with 0 from that. And that's what killed them, in my opinion. But again, rtithreads.com. Shop these guys' apparel lines, merch lines, rtithreads.com/NIL. And they have much more than just clothing. So be sure you check it all out, if I can get the words out. rtithreads.com. Use that /NIL. All right, let's move on to our next caller. We got a number of people still lined up. Folks, if you're new to this platform, there's a few ways to interact. Live chat, Iowa Smokehouse call line, and you can do so by calling 515-635-1601 or dial in via StreamYard. The link is in our description. I'll also throw it up in the live chat. Let's go back to our call line. We have, we've got Ben calling in. Ben?
Hey, guys, can you hear me?
We got you loud and clear.
Hey, awesome. I really don't know what to say. We were at the game, and I just wonder what the hell happened there with Lee at the end of the game on that touchdown we gave up. Why is he on an island, and how does he not make that tackle? That's just gutting.
Well, I'm not going to say anything stupid, all right? Because
right.
I'm not a coach. I try to stay in my lane. I'm going to defer to Coach Patterson on that play. From my perspective, Ben, this is my opinion on that play without telling you what Deshaun Lee should or should not have been doing on that play. You have him lined up against Elijah Surratt, who's all Big Ten caliber receiver.
Sure.
And you're going all out blitz on a critical down. It's worked 2 times in the last 2 drives. To me, it's an odd time to call another one. I just thought that Phil Parker, and he doesn't normally fall prey to this, I thought Phil got a little bit blitz happy at the wrong time, and he just called 1 too many all-out blitzes because they did work. But I just thought it was an odd time to call the third on a critical down after the other 2 had worked earlier.
Right, you're right on that. The first 2 had worked so well. That missed tackle, though, I mean, you've got to have it. You've got to have it. And Stevens with the field, it's very uncharacteristic of Stevens to miss that field goal, too. I don't know what the deal is this year with our special teams. Our special teams have been really down this year, so I don't know. Man, it's a tough one to take. We had them, and it's a tough one to take.
Untimely miss by Drew was the biggest play in the game, since it missed. If he had made it, then, everybody's singing his praises, and I think Iowa probably wins.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been to a lot of games, Ben. How many times have you seen Iowa win in that stadium on a game-winning field goal in a tight punt battle, which it was in the second half?
Yep.
9 times out of 10, Iowa's kicker, whether it's Miguel Racinos, Keith Duncan, Marshall Meter, Drew Stevens, hey, let's go back to the Marshall Kane era.
Yeah.
Moss Brucker, Daniel Murray, they make those kicks in that moment.
Yep.
And they didn't tonight.
It's tough. I mean, go Hawks. We love the Hawks. It's just, it sucks. We've got a rough schedule ahead of us, and I don't know where we're gonna pick one up against a ranked team at this point. It'll be 6 years since we've beaten a ranked team, and I'm honestly a little bit concerned about the program regressing to the point where we just are kind of not capable of winning these kind of games anymore. And that may sound a little bit reactionary. I think the last 5 years have kind of proven that out, but it's a little bit disappointing for Kirk's tenure to end this way, because we love Kirk. It's been a ton of great memories. Been amazing memories with Kirk down at Kinnick, but the last 5 years have been rough.
Now, let me just say real quick, not to, and I get it. You're emotional.
No.
It's on the side. I get it. But let's just real quickly remember, I think we may have lost Ben here, but let's just real quickly remember that if Drew's kick goes through, that I think we can both agree it's likely that Iowa wins this game. And so to say that I can't see Iowa winning these types of games moving forward, like I would almost in a sense like to agree with you, but the issue has been they were one kick away tonight. So whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, right, I think Kirk can continue winning games like this against teams like Indiana. What I don't buy is that Indiana is a national power. And that was the whole reason I had Iowa winning this game by 3 heading into the game. And although I wasn't right on the prediction, I'd like to say, I hope people can acknowledge the fact that I was right on the evaluation side of this, that Indiana was not going to come in here and romp Iowa.
No, you were right. You were right on the evaluation. Breaking up here.
Got you, Ben?
I think we broke up there for a second, but you were right on the evaluation. 100% on that. You spot on that. We just didn't finish when we needed it.
Didn't finish. Yeah, didn't finish. I had him winning by a field goal. I didn't predict this, but I was not going to be surprised at all if it was a game-winning field goal at the end. So it almost went to script. I expected a few more points there in the third quarter that maybe could have gotten it up in the 20s, like was what my prediction was. But
sure.
Yeah, normally, like in this situation, Iowa just makes that field goal, and none of us complain about the offense. None of us complain about, Phil calling one too many blitzes or a field goal kicker not stepping up in the crucial moments, because those kicks go through. So I think you are probably living in the moment, and I'm not criticizing you for doing that.
No, you're right. Yeah, I feel what you're saying.
It is painful. It is painful because here's the deal, Ben. I don't think I need to see it. I need to see more for me to be convinced that Indiana is on Oregon and Penn State's level. My point being, bringing that up is Iowa going to be able to be in this position against a Penn State or an Oregon this year? I don't have the answer to that. I'm not sure. And so you may be right. That top 25 streak may continue past this year, because this was probably their best chance to break it.
Yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle against Penn State and Oregon. We've got to find a way to get 27 rather than 13, I think, to be in those games. And I don't know where it's coming from. Gronowski's bouncing passes every chance he gets, so it's going to be tough. And who knows how hurt he is at this point. So
yeah,
it's going to be. We don't have Caleb Johnson coming to save us. We're going to have to find a way to get some points.
Yeah, the bye week does come at a really good time. You wish that they could have just figured out a way to pull through. Again, you make that kick, it doesn't matter if Gronowski's out. You're just hoping you can get him back for Wisconsin. But It does come at a good time. I would like to think that the fact that he was on the sidelines in a brace and not with his helmet off, not in street clothes, would tell me that this is not they don't expect this to be some season-altering injury. But I guess we have to wait and see on that. So,
yeah. All right. Well, hey, that's all I had for you. I appreciate you, man. I love your show. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it, Ben. Thanks for the call. Go Hawks. Absolutely. Appreciate Ben. Please drive safe, travel safely back from the game. And I see these people in the chat complaining about Signetti. So, yeah, I mean, he's a bit of a drama queen. He's obviously gotten it done there. You got to give him credit. Not many teams go into Iowa and do what they just did. That's why I thought it was so preposterous. Preposterous. All these Indiana fans that told me they were going to come into Iowa and blitzkrieg them. Ridiculous. Now, some teams have gone in there and won narrowly. That's what Indiana just did. But the idea that they were going to replicate what they did last week against Illinois was absolutely insane. So anyways, folks, this is Iowa Postgame with Coach Don Patterson. Don, I know is coming. Don, if you didn't realize this, Iowa was honoring the 1985 Hawkeyes. So Don was part of that today, which is really cool. And I know there was a little bit of a reunion there after the game as well. So a bit longer of a delay for Coach Patterson, but we'll be patient. We always appreciate Don, and we appreciate Ben as well, but we appreciate Don's time as always. So Don will be joining us here soon. And let's see. Alex in the private chat says that Kurt Signetti, excuse me. Kurt was angry because the QB didn't kneel, but the refs blew dead before he kneeled. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Let's go to our Big Grove big play of the day. So Big Grove's big play of the day. Anybody want to take a guess as to what that play was? I'm sure somebody can guess it. Again, we're not talking about the play that decided the game. We're talking about Iowa's big play of the day. And that, of course, was Zach Lutmer's interception, which was then returned 38 yards to the IU 29-yard line with 2:50 to go. That is textbook Iowa football, winning a game late. I mean, it just shades of 2008 against Penn State, right? Shades of that game with Tyler Sash intercepting Darrell Clark. And then Iowa, getting, I don't know how many yards they got, 30 yards after that. Iowa today didn't even need 30 yards. They just needed a made field goal for a guy who's got range from 60, and they couldn't get him to make a 42-yarder. And nobody feels worse than Drew Stevens. I'm not going to sit here and defend him. I mean, the reality is, if you want objectivity, the reality is every kicker misses at some point. I know it doesn't give you comfort in these moments as a fan, but every kicker misses at some point. But the reality is that kick likely cost them the game. You can argue that. That's how I'm on that. When he missed that, I thought this game's over. Doesn't mean I thought, doesn't mean I turned the game off and gave up. But in my mind, I thought that probably decides this game. And I think in the end, it did. So Big Grove's big play of the day ended up not giving Iowa the go-ahead field goal, but it very easily could have. Zach Lutmer, who is an RTI athlete, Zach Lutmer's 38-yard interception return to the IU 29 with less than 3 minutes to go. Big Grove's big play of the day. RTI Threads player of the game. How about this guy, Cohen Entringer? Are we gonna debate this? I want to give me another idea. Maybe Zach Lutmer could be in the conversation. But Cohen was phenomenal. 10 tackles, 7 solos, 2 tackles for loss. He was huge on those 4th down stops, and Iowa got a couple today. And if Iowa's going to win these types of games, those are the things you have to have. You got to figure out a way to be better than your opponent on critical downs. And I'm going to grab the official box score here in just 1 second. But Cohen Entringer was a big part of Iowa's efforts on critical downs defensively. He is our RTI Threads player of the game with 10 tackles, 7 solo, 2 tackles for loss. A guy we had marked preseason. Today was a bit of a coming out party for Cohen. And I think Iowa safeties are playing real well right now. Xavier, Cohen together, they've been solid. And obviously defense as a whole was solid today. You can't really argue with giving up, 20 points. And really it was 13 points until they kind of just, I don't want to say, I'm trying to think of a nice way of putting this. They kind of went all out, right? Literally went all out in that blitz there at the end to try to get a stop on a critical down. It cost them a touchdown, but really good performance against a team that scored in the 60s a week ago against Brett Bielema's defense. All right, let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse line. We've got Vincent here. Vincent, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Hey, Corey, I'll try to just rattle these off. I'm going to be as blunt as I can. As far as the turning point in the game, I've been listening since you got on, and it's absolutely the kick missed by Drew Stevens. Something you and I kind of touched on a little bit last week after the Rutgers game when it comes to consistency. And the reason I say that is I know Alex and I think your prior caller had mentioned they didn't like the full-out blitz on the 3rd and long towards the end of the game, but we're not even in that position. Not even in that position.
Right.
Had Drew Stevens hit that field goal, because if he does, Phil Parker's not playing that style of defense. He's playing a more prevent.
Correct.
Because we're up by
real quick, they're not going to play prevent because there's a lot of time left. But Yes, they're going to be able to be more conservative.
Right.
They're
Right.
not going to bring an all-out blitz on third and long.
And then your prediction of a 3-point win would have been spot on. So just to revert back to that kick, and again, I know kickers miss kicks. The only thing I wanted to touch on last week with you was, he is very, I hate to say cocky, but he just comes off a little bit different. And if you're going to do that, these are those kicks you have to make. And this one here, I'm sure the kid feels bad, but it's an absolute cause, at least from my perspective as a fan, as to why that game went the way it did.
No argument here. I mean, Vincent, I hope you know that when I come on the show, every single time, I'm going to try to be objective and honest, even if it makes me look foolish. And last week, I kind of argued against your narrative. I'm not saying I take back what I said. I think that the conversation last week was more so along the lines of being cocky versus being humble.
Right.
But the reality is, I agree with you. I think the missed kick cost him the game. Now, the facts are he was 2 of 3 today. He made a 50-plus yarder, but the biggest kick of the day was missed. And he is not going to forgive himself for that. I hope Iowa fans do. His teammates will. But I agree, it was the difference in the game. And by the way, Indiana made a huge kick to tie it up 13. No, let's not forget that. That was a young guy he's a sophomore who hasn't kicked the ball a lot, and he sliced that thing in, and Iowa's experienced, seasoned veteran kicker missed a kick from inside of 45.
Yep. No, very, very true. As far as I'm going to give kickback to those that are saying, the Kirk Ferentz era is done. That's all hogwash. No, I think he's actually trending up, because now you actually have an offense that has some life to it. You can see today, and people have to give Indiana credit. I know people want to say they're not a blue blood. No, they're not a blue blood, but they're a extremely sound, fundamental, and good football team. They came into Kinnick. They got physical today. But anyway, as far as my comment in regards to Kirk, I think he's actually trending up. He's doing all the right things today. Just like you said, the whole game was to script. When you saw that Lutmer pick, your whole thought process was, okay, we're in field goal range. We're going to kick the field goal. Like you said, Kirk 2.0. I think he's doing a better job. He's trying to do more with the offense, or let the offensive coordinator do more with the offense. I'm kind of tired of people saying, and I was on that train 2 years ago, but I just don't like people saying, oh, it's a bad image on Kirk at the end of he's not at the end of his career based off what I'm seeing. Not so far this year. You can tell he's into it.
Well, I mean, it obviously depends on what happens moving forward. I kind of dismissed the comment earlier that said, well, if they lose the rest they're not going to lose the rest of their games. I just think that's a dumb comment to make.
No.
But, I mean, I will say this. If they lose Mark, we got problems.
That's my next point. I don't know if you saw the play that he got injured on. That's going to be much more significant than people are realizing now. To your point, he came back out. He had a brace on. But my initial thought for his left knee, when I saw it buckle, when he did that 180 or was trying to break that tackle, my immediate thought was ACL. Now,
I can't imagine that it was ACL and then he comes back out with the brace on.
That's why I'm thinking my initial thought was ACL, but what I'm thinking now is MCL or PCL strain, which is just as hampering, because when you put a brace on, you're trying to give the knee more stability. So that screams to me MCL or PCL strain.
Yeah.
That's probably what you're.
Remember, real quick timeout, because let's not forget Cade McNamara went from kind of like a Jake Rudock mobile type of quarterback to pretty much immobile once he got to Iowa, because remember he had the brace on.
Right.
So, we don't want a repeat of that. And if you lose Mark Gronowski's mobility, man, it changes things.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Given the circumstances with Hank Brown coming in, I don't think the kid did too bad. I mean, granted, he had some throws that were off, but when you've been, sitting on the bench the first 4 games and you're kind of come in to do cleanup duty, given the circumstances, you got a quarter maybe left or half. I'm trying to remember when he came in, but I'm not going to really fault Hank Brown for not having or being able to come in and pull out a win.
I don't think anybody should fault Hank Brown. The question is, what was the in-game diagnosis for Mark?
Right.
But I mean, did you have confidence that Hank Brown would be able to lead them down the field at any point?
If you're asking would I have had or would I have preferred Mark Gronowski being there, absolutely. Did I think Hank could get it done? Yeah, I thought he could get it done. There's the way our defense was playing. I thought he'd be.
No, I'm not saying if they could win with Mark with Hank. I'm saying, did you have confidence that he would lead them down to score a touchdown?
If I'm being honest, no.
Okay, yeah, me neither. And so that's why the Zach Lutmer play was so big, because they didn't need Hank to move him into field goal range. They get Zach to move him inside the 30, and they still miss the kick. So what my ideal was, once Mark went down, is if they can come up with a big turnover and get in good field position and kick a game-winning field goal. They've won so many times this way, and that's what they did.
Yep, they did it.
Exactly what they did, and they were a one hooked kick away from making it happen.
Well, that was the snowball effect, as you would say. That was your snowball effect. Missed field goal, then they get the ball back. Granted, I don't think they had many timeouts, if any, but that's a high-powered offense that can go down the field. And that's ended up being what happened. The other thing I wanted to touch on is I think the defense played lights out. Just like you were saying, Cohen and Trenger, gosh, what a game from that kid. So many instances where he was in the right place, right time, on 4th and 1s to be able to stop those 4th and 1s from converting. But I thought the defense played lights out. They were hitting hard. They were flying at the ball. Kudos to the defense. Granted, you don't want that last play or last series of the game for Indiana to turn out the way it did, but I thought the defense played excellent.
Agree. I mean, how can you argue the defense's performance in general? And I know people are going to beat up on Deshaun Lee, but Deshaun Lee
played well.
Pretty well.
He played well.
Most of this game, I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah.
And TJ Hall was pretty good. Let's give the corners some credit. They're playing pretty well right now. They've also went up against some really good receivers in Ian Strong, Elijah Surratt. They've had some good receivers that are going to be all Big Ten NFL draft picks. And it's going to change here in a couple of weeks when they play the likes of Wisconsin. I don't know what Michigan State has on the outside. Minnesota is not great on the outside this year. So they've had some difficult matchups, and they held their own today. Again, just a couple of plays short.
No, they played really well. And to defend Deshaun Lee, when you have a all-out blitz and you're the last man standing, and you're covering one-on-one, and you have the whole field behind you, that's incredibly tough to do. Now, granted, do you want to make that tackle on Surratt? Sure, yes, you do, but you got to give the kids credit on the back end, especially the DBs and Hall and Lee. I thought they played extremely well, especially given the offense that they were going up against. So I have no complaints there. Last thing I'll leave you with is, at least for me, the loss is tough, especially given the circumstances, because this is one that I want to say we gave away, especially with the kick being missed and not being able to close it out. But at least gives me confidence as a fan going forward, playing the upper echelon teams in the Big Ten vis-a-vis Penn State, vis-a-vis Oregon. To me, it says Indiana is that good, and we can stay competitive with Indiana. I think we can still springboard that into the games that we're going to have with Penn State and Oregon to at least compete and do well. And I'll leave it at that. Corey, thank you so much for the call.
Thanks, appreciate it, Vincent. Yeah, good call. And I don't know that Indiana is as good as Penn State, Oregon, but I do know that those games are all in Kinnick. And that's what we said prior to the season. And if Iowa had traveled to Indiana today, maybe they do lose by a couple of touchdowns. I think if they traveled to Oregon tomorrow, they'd probably lose by 3 or more. I do think there's a gap. But my hypothesis is that there's a gap between Indiana and Oregon and Penn State. Now, we'll see what happens with Oregon and Penn State tonight. I guess we can go ahead and grab a live score on that. Let's see if we can grab a live score on that. Let's see if we can get some light in. Whoa. No, that is not good. Let's go down. Let's see if we can get that down a little bit. Okay, that looks a little bit better. How about that? All right, we'll get some light in here. Okay, so live score right now between Oregon and Penn State. They got it moving about 6:30 p.m. this evening. It's 0-0 late in the first quarter. By the way, Iowa State leads 15-0 over Arizona in second quarter. Alabama leads Georgia 7-0. All right, let's continue. We don't have Coach Patterson here yet. I promise he is coming. And thank you for everybody being here. Appreciate all the support. And again, I know the criticism on Hank Brown is frustration, but yeah, I mean, it was a tough position for a backup quarterback to be. And that's why I would have, not knowing what Mark's prognosis was or is, I would prefer a 75% Hank, Mark over a 100% Hank at this point, having not seen enough of Hank Brown with his arm in live game action. All right, let's go back to our phone line. We've got our Iowa Smokehouse caller, Doug, who is here with us. Doug, appreciate you being here, sir.
Yeah, well, Alex and Vincent stole a lot of the things I wanted to talk about. I really thought Zach Lutmer had to take that back because for some reason I was like, we were going to get that field goal. I wasn't even sure if we got that field goal, they wouldn't come back and score. Lee has to make that tackle.
The problem, here's the issue. Even if you want to make the argument that it certainly would have been possible for Indiana to score at that point, but Iowa's at least insured overtime, even if they allow Indiana to come down and score. And Indiana then would have had to make their kick. My guess is Iowa wins that game at that point. And let's not forget, you make the field goal, Doug, you're going to get a kick out of the end zone from Drew Stevens, and then they're back in that north end zone. I mean, 25-yard line, but they're back on that side of the field trying to drive with that offense.
Yeah, I like what was it, Vincent's comment about Drew. I don't think it's anything about confidence or I don't know. That's just weird. That miss is just really because this felt like a normal Iowa win. How Iowa usually wins football games, against ranked teams that you mentioned, the Penn State game or the Michigan game where we had that 14, I think, the Penn State game in 2009. We've had so many, all those Nebraska games where we had those last second kicks. And, the margin is so small. I mean, I hate being 3-2, especially losing to Iowa State and Indiana. And I don't know really what else to say. I'm following Alex. I kind of disagree with something you said, though, Corey.
Let's go at it. You got some boxing gloves? Let's go.
No. Are you well? Maybe I don't necessarily disagree. Kirk's definitely at the end of his career. I mean, he's 70 years old. I mean, he doesn't have.
When did I make a comment about Kirk not being at the end of his career?
Oh, you got with the guy that said that he'd retire after.
The comment said if they lose the rest of their games. That was.
I didn't mean anything.
We think they're going to go 3-9. I just thought it was a ridiculous comment. Like,
no, I don't.
We're going to talk about them I've talked about them going 5-7 because that's at least somewhat feasible. Because could you see them losing before this game? Losing to Indiana, Oregon, Penn State, Nebraska, USC. That's at least feasible. They're not dropping
Wisconsin,
and USC and Minnesota and Michigan State. They're not going to drop all those games.
I agree with you, but I'm just saying. At some point, I know there's a lot. We're not a bad football team. We're just not a good football team. We're probably a 6-6, 7-5 football team. I mean, they don't have to knock off somebody if they want to do much better than 7-5. I mean, but I mean, I think they'll win against Wisconsin. We get Penn State and Oregon at home, and we get Minnesota in between there. I don't know, but
this one. Let's be honest. They've lost 2 games now by a total of 8 points. And both games were extremely winnable.
And both games were against teams that are ranked in the top 15 right now that think they're going to the playoffs. Both teams are – the thing that hurts too, and as we were dealing with the Indiana fans this last week and I'm dealing with the Iowa State fans, is it's not like they blew us out. These are winnable games, and that's what's really hurts. And it just got to win games like this. And I know Lee probably feels bad. We were talking about Drew Stevenson feeling bad – But, the other thing I was going to say, Mark's doing better, but we still need more offense. We need touchdowns. We need more scoring. I mean,
that's a fair point. Now, this was a conservative game plan, and I'm not shocked by that at all, right? This is how Iowa wins games against teams like this. But we saw Iowa punt on 4th and 1 in plus territory, I believe, or was it 4th and 1 or 4th and 3? It's 4th and short. Let me look back at my notes.
Well, when we stopped them on 4th and 1, that was a lot. The neighbor asked me what the hell was wrong with me.
I mean, Iowa kicks the
40. A lot.
It was a 40-yard field goal on 4th and 2 after Sam Phillips had a catch. So, I mean, there's that, which I don't blame Iowa for that. Iowa punts in plus territory. I don't have yardage on that one. But I mean, yeah, that's how Iowa wins games with Kirk in these types of situations. So I don't necessarily blame him for being conservative. You could tell Kirk was, when those decisions are made, that those are not offensive coordinator decisions, whether to kick, to punt, or to go for it. Those are 100% Kirk Ferentz's decision made. And I'm not saying he's wrong for that. I'm just saying that is not going to change whether it's Brian Ferentz, Ken O'Keefe, Greg Davis, or Tim Lester calling the plays.
Yeah. Well, and I think our defense, and someone said something about it on the chat, defense is like way up there, ranked in top 10 in the nation. I don't know if that's true or not, but like I said, these are winnable games. You got a bye week. You know, I don't want Kirk forced out. I hope he leaves the right way. But being 3-2, like I said, we lost 2 close games, and we lost to 2 cocky programs that think they're, I don't know, think they now have a tradition or something. I don't know, but it's just tough. And yeah, I think. I just think hopefully against Wisconsin they can get a little bit more offense. And the ranked thing, it'd be nice if we would probably our only 2 last ranked teams would be Penn State and Oregon, right? Those are USC.
Yeah, I mean, unless Nebraska can somehow get in. The USC just lost today, so it's unlikely that they stay in the top 25. They could get back in. They lost on the road at Illinois. But yeah, those would be the teams to watch for if it's not Oregon, Penn State.
Well, that was like what my point is. They're not a bad team. They don't lose to Rutgers, but we can't beat these teams in the top 25. And I don't think Iowa State and Indiana, there's a huge talent gap. It just, like you said, one play here. If we make that kick, we do this, we win these games. So I don't know how fans should feel. I mean, you have kind of a mixed group in your live chat. I kind of feel, just average, blah. This is a tough one. I think they'll beat Wisconsin. I think they'll beat Minnesota and Michigan State. But a lot of people are not going to be happy with 7-5, and I don't blame them. But there's other callers, and I don't really have anything more to say because Alex and Vincent did a good job, and hopefully Don will get on there and maybe shed some light that would be smarter than anything I have to say. Well, thank you again.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate the call as always, sir. I appreciate the loyal support. All right, lots of things to get to. Coach Don Patterson, again, 1985 reunion, so he's held up a little bit, but good for Don, especially after a loss. Enjoy yourself. Pretty cool honor there for Dan McCarney and that entire 85 staff, 85 team that was one of the best. Lance, thank you for being a premium member. He says, I knew it was over when they scored. I'm sure we all did. Just curious, when's the last time Iowa had a game-winning drive, 2-minute offense? If we're talking about touchdown, I'd have to really rethink that. But looking back, I mean, I could find one, right? Probably find Nebraska a couple of years ago. Maybe our guy Tom Kakert would know. Tom, HawkeyeReport.com is here. Tom, you got an answer to Lance's question. When's the last time Iowa had a game-winning drive?
trying to remember that.
Yeah.
Last time they did that in the 2 minutes, and it's been a bit. I think been a bit.
They've done it.
We almost had with if Cooper DeJean's return would have counted.
Well, that wouldn't have counted though, would it? That's not an offensive game-winning drive down in the last 2
Yeah,
minutes.
that's true. It's not an offensive. It's a return. So
they're 0 for 2.
It's been a bit.
It's been a bit. They're 0 for 2 in those situations this year. Tom, if people aren't familiar, Tom Kakert, HawkeyeReport.com, helping us to recap Indiana's 20-15 win over Iowa, fresh off Kirk Ferentz's post-game press conference. Tom, I mean, there's a number of things. Let's just start with the obvious.
Sure.
What can you tell us about Mark Gronowski's health right now?
What Kirk said is he could not decelerate to the level that him to do. So that's why they didn't put him in there. I don't know what that means, deceleration, but maybe he just couldn't slow down comfortably to the level that they want him to do. But they think that examination pretty whatever's ailing him, but they'll know more here in the next day or so.
And I'm just curious, Tom, I'm assuming that when he came out of the tent, I mean, again, maybe this is not information you're privy
Yeah.
to, but when he came out of the tent with the brace on, there was an expectation from a lot of people seeing that, I'm sure in person or on TV, that he was going to come back in the game. And so I'm assuming that the deceleration comment is more along the lines of if he becomes a mobile threat, his ability to stop when he's running with the ball, correct?
Yeah, that's I think what he's getting at. Yeah, and he warmed up and he looked like he was, I mean, everything that kind of indicated he was warming up. He looked like he was moving okay. And I was like, well, I guess he's going back in. And then all of a sudden I see Hank heating up again. And then I see Mark go over to talk to Hank and kind of whisper something to him or tell him something. And then Hank went one way and towards the huddle, and Mark went the other way. And that was when I went, okay, I guess Hank's going in. So yeah, that's kind of how it played out. So I think they're generally hopeful he's going to be able to be out there again. So, but we'll know more here in the next day or two.
So that, and again, I'm just kind of dialoguing based on what you just said. That would tell me, Tom, that Iowa preferred a Hank Brown and his arm and being immobile over a Mark Gronowski who would become immobile with his arm.
I think they were just more comfortable with Hank out there. And I asked Kirk, felt he did okay. He's done well. Practice is what he said. He's performed well. Had very practices and felt like he gave him the best chance to win the game. Obviously, he missed that third down pass to Kamari. That, you know, if that's a make, that's a first down, and you know, potentially you can kind of run out the clock, I think, at that point, and kick the last second field goal. Now, of course, there are field goal issues that and special teams issues that probably need to be discussed too.
Yeah. So what did Kirk say? I mean, I just made the comment here in the last hour, Tom. Sometimes guys miss kicks, and Drew has missed a couple. The kicks all count the same when they go through, but he narrowly made a kick against Iowa State that could have easily been called no good. I'm only mentioning that because it tells me that he has not been nearly as accurate as he was last year. What did Kirk have to say? We obviously didn't get to talk to LeVar, but what did Kirk have to say about his kicker?
Yeah, he still got confidence in Drew. I think what's going on is the whole system there. Snaps, holds, getting the ball in the right place. I think there's been some breakdowns in that area. Delivery of the ball, centering of the ball to the proper spot and getting that spot there. All of those things have to be in a proper spot. And Iowa's been very fortunate, you know, the last couple of years with Drew kicking the football, especially last year. Luke Elkin is one of the best snappers in the country, and everything was on time. It was put in the right spot. And now you're breaking in a new guy this year. And I think there's just been some things off. And then you had the punt, got a paw on that. And that's two of those in recent weeks that Iowa has had issues with. And that hadn't been an issue in the past. And now all of a sudden it's an issue. And I think part of it is just the block scheme or some communication in front of Reese. Is Reese going too slow? I don't know. It's definitely something that's got to be corrected during this bye week. They've got to figure out some things on special teams to get this right, because Iowa lives in the margins, and they cannot have things like bad snaps or bad holds or bad kicks on field goal attempts late in the fourth quarter and punts that get blocked or tipped. They're fortunate to get a 29-yard roll out of that because it could have just gone the other direction. So they've got to get some things cleaned up on the special teams, because the return game's fine. Weegen's doing great, and teams are. I think Weegen's in the head of just about every punter in the country now. It just seemed like the Indiana punter just wanted nothing to do with kicking it towards Caden Weegen, and he didn't have a very good day. But yeah, I see somebody Corey talk about the bad tackling. That's another issue. It's there just seems to be a lot of the defense was terrific, but the tackling has just not been sound, I think. And Kirk was asked about it, and he said, yeah, it's been maybe some of the younger guys that are, in terms of playing experience on the defensive side, that have really struggled wrapping guys up and getting them to the ground without more yards being gained. And that's where you miss a Jay Higgins and Nick Jackson, because when they tackled, the guy didn't drag him 3 yards. And those things, again, in the margins, add up against Iowa.
Any explanation from Kirk on, there were a couple of odd situations, not just with, I thought the reviews were fair and I thought they were called correctly both ways, but a little bit of an odd scenario there with the 3rd down scramble by Mendoza, in which Wampa makes a great play on the ball, great play on Mendoza on the quarterback. Ended up 1 yard short of the first down marker. And you could argue it became irrelevant afterwards because Iowa got a stop on 4th and 1. But I thought it was a little odd how long it took for the officials to sort that out. And eventually they call an offsides penalty on Iowa, which was declined by Indiana, which brought up 4th and 1. But there was no unnecessary roughness after, or unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Was there anything mentioned post-game with Kirk about that?
Nothing about that was brought up, discussed. His post-game was really kind of short, to be honest, today. It was probably 6-7 questions, if that. So didn't get a lot of depth in that. We were just trying to get what we could out of Kirk today.
Yeah. Any update on Bo Stevens? Jazz Patterson, I know, was out today. I know there's an anticipation.
Seth Anderson was out.
Yeah,
Seth Anderson didn't play.
Andersey is still out. Jarrett Bowie remains out. Is there any other injury updates you can give us?
Nothing really. The only thing he talked about was Mark. Seth Anderson was in uniform. He just didn't play, which was interesting. And he was not on the injury report. So, it wasn't like he was questionable. So that makes me think they thought he was going to play, and then he went through warm-ups, and then they just had to pull the plug on him. Bo Stevens went back out there, so really no update. Also, Jaden Harrell went back out, so he seems to be okay. Dunker was out of there at the end, apparently, and I didn't really notice that. But the thing with Dunk that usually comes up is that he has some cramping issues sometimes, and so they got to try and get him hydrated, and they'll run Doetzler back out there to take his place at times. That's what I'm assuming it is.
Well, obviously the biggest storyline right now is Mark Gronowski's health, and we'll continue to follow that storyline. Anything else that stood out from post game with Kirk, Tom, or something that you want to address?
Really, but Gronowski's the big story. Just because the way he reacted when he kind of pounds the turf on that play, I was like, oh boy, that's a guy that's had an ACL injury, and I wondered if maybe that's what he was thinking, perhaps. Just because if you've torn your ACL, you know what it feels like when it tears again. I've known people who've done that, and having torn my own ACL one time, I if it happened again, I would know immediately when something like that happened. But he's went back into the game, and they examine him in the tent. He puts the brace back on. It's interesting because he had torn his ACL and then wore that brace during his time at South Dakota State, and then he felt, I think, a little slow in that first game of the year against Albany, so he just took that brace off and has played without it and ran pretty well without it. So that's It's going to be interesting, what everything reveals, but I'm guessing they did all sorts of testing on it and felt comfortable that he could potentially go back into the game. But they didn't feel comfortable enough to send him back out into the game eventually. But I think they feel good that it's not something that's, at least initially, I'm sure they'll probably do an MRI of some sort on it just to kind of confirm everything and make sure it's okay, and then move from there.
Yeah, I almost question the whole, it was a matter of just being able to decelerate. Because again, I go back to, so you're telling me if he's healthy and he's not risking re-injury, you're telling me you prefer an immobile Hank Brown over an immobile Mark Gronowski. And I just can't imagine that's the whole story there. But it was notable that he was back out there, like you said. And I don't know if this was something that was reported to the television broadcast, but it was reported that he was quote unquote questionable to return. But if they lose his mobility, even if he does return and they lose his mobility and he plays with that brace on his leg, what a huge blow for a guy who led the team in carries heading into this one. So, Tom Kakert.
And they did not run him very much in this game, especially early on. He was very limited. In fact, I commented on that. I was like, boy, he has like 0 carries, in the first half. They really didn't utilize the run. And then they started to do that in the second half more and more, where they were trying to use him as a runner and a passer. And I thought it was pretty effective, but not to the extent that it was the week before.
Tom Kakert, HawkeyeReport.com. Tom, we always appreciate your time, sir.
Yes.
Get your work done. Travel back to the Quad Cities safely. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. All right. We always appreciate Tom for being here as we continue to talk about Iowa's 20-15 loss at the hands of the Indiana Hoosiers. And again, we are awaiting Coach Don Patterson, who is, I'm assuming, very close to being with us. And speak of the devil, I think Don is here. So we're going to get Don in here in just a moment. Before we get to Don, we'll take a moment real quickly to thank our great sponsors here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. First of all, Iowa Smokehouse. If you need a great snack on game day or any day, be sure you see what Iowa Smokehouse has to offer over at iowasmokehouse.com. Their thick and tender cuts of beef jerky, their meat sticks, their salsas, their barbecue sauces, their ketchups, everything is delicious, and you can get it for 15% off. Get it shipped right to your doorstep. I don't know why people wouldn't take advantage of this option. 15% off, and you're getting free shipping. It makes really no sense not to take advantage of this. iowasmokehouse.com. Watch your favorite games with your favorite snacks. Use the code Hawkeyes at iowasmokehouse.com for 15% off your order. And save big money by getting an insurance quote from your guy down at State Farm in Des Moines, Brad Van Meter at 515-256-6480. Brad and his team have been king of Des Moines for State Farm in the 21st century down on Fleur Drive. You can call him for a free quote or visit him online, bradvanmeter.com. Brad Van Meter and his State Farm team in Des Moines. Without further ado, we welcome none other than Coach Don Patterson. Don, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Corey. I'm glad to be here. I apologize if my voice is not quite as good as normal.
That's okay. Can you get the camera a little bit lower? I don't want to cut you off with some comments here. If you're able to get it a little bit lower.
How's that?
Perfect. Looks great. So, Don, you look pretty good. Glad you made it back from a big crowd. I hope you had a great time celebrating the 1985 team. I know that was a special honor, not just for Dan McCarney, but for all of you. What a great bunch of people who created a bunch of memories for a lot of Hawkeye fans. So, first of all, congratulations on that honor today. A lot to get to. We've been talking here for the last hour and a half just about what just happened and how this game transpired, a 5-point loss. First thing I said when I hopped on here was, well, I was right about this game being decided in the final quarter. I didn't see it happening any other way. I was wrong about the final outcome. I thought Iowa would make maybe a kick at the end or get a big play to end the game. Maybe they were already up 3 in the situation. In the end, Iowa misses a kick. Indiana goes down the field, scores a touchdown after an all-out blitz by Phil Parker's guys and blown coverage by Deshaun Lee and company. So we'll get to that in a minute. Boy, I don't know where to start, Don. We just had Tom Kakert on, who tells us that Kirk says Mark Gronowski's injury, he had the potential of coming back in the game, but they were concerned about his ability to decelerate. That was the comment that was made by Tom from Kirk Ferentz, that they were concerned about his ability to decelerate. My response to that, I'm not calling anybody a liar, but my response to that is, okay, he can't decelerate, but that would give me the impression that he's still able to perform quarterback duties, just is not going to be able to give you that run threat. So you're telling me that you want a 100% Hank Brown, you want a Hank Brown immobile QB in the pocket over an immobile Mark Gronowski? Is that what you're telling me? But that's all Kirk said, so we don't know. But that I kind of smell something there. That doesn't smell right to me. But obviously, it was a huge factor in the game. And then, there's nobody that feels worse about this than Drew Stevens. I believe if he makes that field goal, Don, with 2 minutes to go, Iowa wins the game. I mean, I can't prove that, but I think they win the game 9 times out of 10 when Iowa's in these situations at home. The kicker makes that kick, whether it's Stevens, Ragaini, Racinos, Keith Duncan, Shudak, whoever it is, they make that kick.
You'll find this interesting, Corey. Maybe somebody mentioned to you, they never showed the kick on the big screen in the stadium from behind the ball. It looked from the side, it looked like it was good. It must have been right over the upright.
No, it wasn't even close.
Really?
It wasn't even close.
It's hard to tell the seats.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was not. I know it is, but it was not even close. He hooked it. He just hooked it. And Tom did make a point that they have had issues with snapping and holding. Like that whole process has not been smooth. So the missed kick decided it, but Stevens is not the only guy involved in place kicking.
Right.
He is the guy whose leg physically kicks the ball, but there's other factors at play here. So it's hard to just see when you're watching it if you're not a specialist, but he's beating himself up. If there was anything else in as far as a factor there with Bryant Worrell, who I believe was the long snapper on that play, Ty Nissen, who was a holder, then those guys feel horrible as well. But I guess we'll start.
What did the replay show on that? How was the operation? How was the snap? How was the hold?
I really wasn't paying that much attention to that aspect of it, Don, but I didn't notice anything egregious there. So I guess with that being said, Don, I will start there. When I got on here an hour and a half ago, I said I thought the play that decided the game was the missed field goal. And there were other plays as well. But would you agree with that assessment first and foremost?
Well, that was a huge play because clearly they would have been playing from behind after the field goal. And I'm going to check now to see what the clock said. The clock was getting low. We all know that. You recall, Corey?
It was, I can tell you the interception occurred. The interception occurred with 2 minutes and 50 seconds.
Good. That left 2:01 on the clock.
Yeah, that was unfortunate because you'd think the kick would end up hitting the 2 minute mark for the 2 minute warning. There was a lot there, Don. Can I just say there was a lot there that I didn't like?
And it says right here, they burned up 2 timeouts on that possession.
Indiana did.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
So they were down to 1, I guess. Yeah, they took their last timeout. I'm sorry. I don't know when they took. Yeah, they took it at 1:56. Then they ran for 3, took an immediate timeout, which is odd. You took your last timeout. You gained 3 yards on first down, 2nd and 7 from the -27, and you burn a timeout. That doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, that was the 2 minute timeout. It wasn't counted against them.
Okay.
That's why.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess, again, do you feel like that kick was the play that decided it, Don?
Well, my only point, we know for sure it's documented. They used up 2 timeouts already. Didn't they use up 1 earlier in the game? In the second half?
Indiana?
I thought so.
I believe so.
Didn't they take one when they reviewed the potential. I don't remember what they were arguing about. Whether or not we caught the pass, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that.
Let's see if I can find it real quick. I can't find it, but I thought the reason they reviewed it. Remember, it was the play that was. We actually snapped the ball. Their coach was anxious to get to the wing official. I thought he was simply complaining, but I think the fact that they called timeout as the ball was being snapped, I think he actually burned the timeout at that point,
Okay.
as I recall. Anyway, the point was, Corey, at best they had one timeout left, and they had, if we made the field goal, they would have 2 minutes left, and they'd have to go the length of the field.
But they would have called. Phil Parker would have been able to call that defense differently at that point, right?
Correct. The sad aspect of it, I flash back to a quote you've heard before: "Live by the sword, die by the sword." There's no doubt over the course of the game that the blitz calls helped us.
Yeah.
But that last one was the one that bit us.
And I said the comment right away, Don, when I got on here. I said, boy, talk about big all-out blitz calls. You talk about the call that ended up with the Zach Lutmer interception. And then you send basically everybody. I think they sent basically everybody there on that last blitz. And they had blitzed a couple of times. They were both successful. And then it was that third one. It was just one too many.
And let me say this too. I don't know how many sacks we had, but I know this. That quarterback got hit a lot, more than he's ever been hit before, at least this year. And to his credit, I thought he did a good job of standing there and throwing. A couple of times the ball was barely out, and he got hit immediately. But he kept getting up. He played a good game. He's a good quarterback.
Sam in the chat says, Indiana fans, go in the rest of your games, enjoy the ride. To all the fans who said it would be a blowout, I told you it would not. Well, yeah, again, that was just stupidity from Indiana fans.
I'm curious, Corey, how many Indiana fans have you heard from simply stating you were right?
A couple, not a lot.
That's a little disappointing because they know sure as I'm sitting here, they were lucky as hell to win the game.
Yeah, they don't care. They don't care. Now, I will say this, and we're going to get to our next caller here because we got a couple of people who've been on hold for quite some time. But I'm going to pull up the final numbers here in just a second. Before we do that, why don't we get to our next caller? They've been waiting on hold for quite some time. Thank you for calling our Iowa Smokehouse line and Iowa Postgame with Coach Tom Patterson, who's on the line.
Hi, this is Pat.
Hey, Pat.
Hey, Don, a question on your time with Hayden Fry and football philosophy.
Okay.
So when you would have your coaches meetings before the year started, I mean, would your coaching staff have a strategy like, hey, Don, we've got some talent, and your goal is, I want you to score as many points as possible. I want you to open it up, and you do what you do. And would you ever have any internal goals? I know a game has to be managed quarter by quarter, minute by minute, but to say, Don, we need you to go out and we need you to get us 30 points. And you do that.
You had those kind of goals, yes.
10-1 or 11-1. Did you have internal goals like that, whether they were monetarily rewarded or not? Were there things like, and then you'd get with your players and go, guys, here's the plan. You know, we want to score 4 touchdowns a game, 2 field goals, and if we can score 34 points a game, we think we can win a lot of games. So,
every game in the preseason.
Because what I hear from the Iowa staff is, you know, we're going to play complementary football, you know, and we're going to do this, and that's great. I mean, that's a strategy, but it's not working now. I mean, they're scoring 13 points a game, Iowa cannot score 20 points a game against big-time teams. They can't. So just, could you comment on that? And then I have one, Corey, I'm going to beat the dead horse on time management. So, Don, if you wouldn't mind answering that, and then I just want to throw in one thing on time management.
We had team goals, we had position goals, and in between those two sets of goals, we had offensive and defensive goals. And in the preseason, we always established what they were. A lot of them were not based on an average over the season. A lot of them were based on each and every game. In other words, it's not as important to score 30 points a game as it is to aspire to score 24 points in every game, maybe. You follow me? 60 points in one game doesn't help you win the next game. So we were always looking for consistency. And obviously against the better defense, good luck trying to hit that goal. It's a lofty goal. You know, even though it's a goal for each and every game, you might recognize we're playing a great team this weekend. We might not score 24, we're still going to aspire to. But if 21's enough, we're okay with that. You know, we'll just try to put up one more than they do. But it's a little foolish to say against the nation's top-rated scoring defense that you're going to be able to go out and get 24 points. Because that may not happen. They may not give 24 points to anyone over the season. So I hope that helps answer your question. But we always looked at specific goals. Another example, never turn the ball over. You have to never turn it over, of course, but never turn it over more than once a game. If you can do that, at the end of the year, obviously you're averaging something less than one turnover a game. And that'll win you a lot of games if you can never have more than one. How many today, Corey? I lost track. How many tip passes for interceptions? 2?
2 tip passes that were interceptions. Well, no, I'm sorry. 3.
3?
Yep. Total, combined.
Oh, combined. Okay. We had one, they had 2?
Yep, correct.
Yeah.
And then your next question,
Well,
Pat?
I was going to tell Don, too, I really enjoy watching his teams play offense. I remember when Iowa first became ranked number 1 and Michigan State came to Kinnick, and you guys, I think you won 38-35 in a real offensive showdown.
I believe you got the score exactly right.
Do you remember that?
Sure I do. The DB coach for Michigan State that day was Nick Saban. Nick and I have talked about the game.
Yeah, and in that same year, Don, Michigan came to town, and Iowa was number 1, and Michigan was number 2. And I'm sure you remember the score of that game. It was 12-10 on a last second.
I do. That was a great Michigan defense, incidentally. Obviously, if they're ranked number 3 in the country, they must be pretty good. Here's what I do remember. We had 9 possessions in that game. And you'd say, how do you remember that after all these years? Some things you just don't forget. We had 9 possessions in the game, and amazingly enough, 9 times we went into plus territory. All 9 times. We only had 4 field goals to show for it. But the point of that exercise, 4 times we got within range. You might recall we got cheated out of a touchdown to Scott Helverson. Thankfully, it didn't matter since we made the last field goal. But the defense was so good, we managed to get across midfield, but getting into the end zone was another story. That was a wonderful defense.
Well, you did get in the end zone, and there would have been a touchdown.
You're right.
Keith Chappelle getting face masked, and he came over to the sideline, and Hayden yelled at him for dropping the ball. And then there was a picture on the front page of the Des Moines Register the next day showing Keith Chappelle getting face masked in the end zone as the ball was coming into him. Or you would have had a touchdown that game. Okay.
Well, the play I remember went to Scott Helverson. Scott Helverson caught a ball. I'm sorry?
I remember Chappelle was the guy that got face masked, but I could be wrong.
Well, there was a ball that was caught. It was ruled out of bounds. The replay showed it was caught in bounds, but they didn't have official replay back then. The TV replay indicated it was a touchdown. It should have counted.
Maybe it was a different game then that Chappelle got face masked, but anyway. The other thing then...
Oh, wait a minute. For sure, Keith Chappelle. I'll tell you how I know that. Keith Chappelle came in with Gordy Bohannon. Keith Chappelle never redshirted. Keith Chappelle played in 79 and 80. Did not play in 81. He was done with his eligibility.
I stand corrected. The other thing, kind of elephant in the room on clock management. I mean, Corey, you've heard Kirk's post-game pressers, and it's just talking's not real smooth. There's a lot of, we'll keep working at it. We're going to do better. I don't know. It doesn't seem super polished. I just wonder about the intelligence quotient as they're managing these games and just figuring it out. I've talked to high school coaches that say, we got two guys on the sideline and their whole job is down and distance and time. Down and distance and time. And of course they practice this stuff. And I'm sure Iowa practices stuff, but it's just, I just don't get it. And then just to wrap up, Don, at what point, it's pretty clear that, Iowa's offense over the last 5 years is not going to be something that's going to lead to top-tier Big Ten finishes. And while it's the philosophy, and I'm not saying it's a bad philosophy, the complementary football, we're going to control the line of scrimmage, we're going to control the clock, we're not going to turn the ball over, we're going to play stout defense. All of that's great. But at what point do you say that it's not winning championships? Does somebody sit down with Kurt, or does anybody have that authority? There's got to be some kind of change to the style of football we're playing, because we're not gaining ground. So anyway, I'll hang up. Guys, thanks for the show. You do a great job.
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate the call.
Let me say this, Corey, about timeouts. I do recall at Connecticut, Bob Diaco, our head coach, I was on the sidelines at that time, and he said, I want the whole staff to understand this. Coach Patterson is in charge of timeouts. I don't want any of you to ever question his judgment for this simple reason. He has a better idea of when we should use him than all the rest of you. So, Coach P, it's your job. And I want you to be standing next to me at all those times at the end of each quarter, at the end of each half. I want you to be right there with me so that you can always give me the right advice on timeouts. And I took that very seriously. And I think we did make very good use of the timeouts. Coincidentally, the very next year, one reason they got fired, they had very poor clock management, cost them a game against Navy. It was obvious they made mistakes with the clock at the end of the game, and we died on the goal line with time expired simply because we were not smart with the timeouts. I'm not saying it might not have happened the year before if I was there, but I kind of doubt it, because I think we would have used the timeouts more wisely than UConn did that day, because they clearly misused the timeouts.
Adam says, if the throw was better on that screen, that seals the game. I don't know that screen play, was that going to produce a first down, Don?
Maybe not.
Couldn't tell for sure.
Was that the play before the field goal?
Correct.
Yeah. Well, again, maybe that would have put us closer on the field goal. Maybe that would have helped if we'd been on it, but maybe not. Maybe it's wide left. I guess it doesn't matter if it's a 38-yard kick or a 33-yard kick, whatever.
Yeah.
They would have both been wide, it sounds like. Was the ball wide coming off the tee even, Corey?
It started well, I don't know that it was wide. It was a hook. So
maybe it started slightly inside.
Yes.
Clearly ended up outside.
Yep, absolutely.
Got it.
All right, we got some super chats we got to catch up on. This was asked earlier, but I'll ask you this, Don. When's the last time Iowa had a successful 2-minute drill game-winning drive? So in other words, 2-minute offense producing a win. It's been a while.
I think you know the answer to that.
I do.
I thought I mentioned it to you. I do know the last time we did it.
Nebraska win?
Nope. Well, let me back up. In recent years, I know what the numbers are because I've looked at it. I went back in time, and I was just, this came up after the Iowa State game, Corey. Remember somebody asked me, how much confidence did you have that we're going to drive 76 yards in 108 seconds for the game-winning touchdown? And I gave an honest answer. I said my confidence level was not high at all, but I thought we could drive 36 yards, get in field goal range, and kick a field goal to force overtime. I thought we could do that. Maybe the reason I thought that way, Corey, I went back and looked. 5 times in recent years, we have gone on the field with the game tied up, with a chance to break the tie, And 5 times we've been successful. All 5 kicks have gone through. The average drive, as I recall, was 36 yards. So some of them were fairly legitimate drives to get in field goal range. Here's the bad news. Over the last 22, that's 5 of the last 22 2-minute opportunities. The other 17, we were behind with a minute or 2 or 3 to play. And all 17 times, we failed to score a touchdown.
17 times.
17 times. So if you add that with the other 5 we didn't need a touchdown. We only needed a field goal. So you might say, well, if we needed a touchdown, maybe we'd have made one. We'll never know. Maybe not, because some of those were long-range kicks, you might recall. But the bottom line, 17 times when we were behind, we failed to even get a touchdown or a field goal. We didn't even score 3 because some of those games were 1 point down, 2 points down. The majority of them, I think, we were 3 points down. As I recall, 7 of them were down by 3. Field goal would have tied the game up. We could have won it in overtime. A good example, of course, is Iowa State. We were down by 3, right?
Yeah.
Chance to tie it up. There were 7 of those. One game was a 2-point game and one was a 1-point game. Clearly, we didn't score at all on those drives. So long story short, if you go back in time, you have to go back to 2017. 8 years ago, it happened not once but twice. And a lot of our listeners remember one of these games, one of the better games ever played in Kenny. We were behind, and we went the length of the field, 80-something yards, in 1 minute off the clock. And we scored to go ahead of Penn State, 19-14. The only problem in that case, we scored too quickly. Penn State had 1:42. They scored the game-winning touchdown on the last snap of the game. It was scored with no time on the clock. So, but at least we went down the field and scored a touchdown in 2-minute offense. Hats off to Nate Stanley. Hats off to Akram Wadley. Hats off to a couple of other guys. Our receiver, can't think of his name, help me out. He's married to
Vandenberg.
Yes, Matt Vandenberg. Made a couple of key catches in those 2 drives. And then also, if I want to give credit to a 4th skill player, would be Noah Fant. He had a catch or 2 in those drives too. Primarily going to give credit to Akram Wadley, because both of them were touchdown runs. One was maybe 35 yards, the other was 47. But sadly, we scored too quickly against Penn State, ended up losing the game. And the other game, we did win the game, but we scored to put it in overtime over in Ames. We put the game in overtime. We beat Iowa State in overtime with a game-winning field goal. But we would have never been in overtime without that touchdown drive. It was also 80 yards or more.
All right. We've got James up next in the queue. We've got Corey on hold as well. Just want to give you a quick rundown of my notes, Don, and then feel free to comment anywhere you please. So obviously the first drive could not have started worse. You get a tipped pass that ends up in an interception, and then a quick touchdown for Indiana, a nice run up the middle, followed by a wide open receiver in the end zone. But Iowa does a nice job responding. They get a first down to Sam Phillips, who I thought played pretty darn well today. Was the best receiver on the field for Iowa without Seth Anderson. And then a really bad drop by DJ Vanami on 3rd and 10. And he's had a propensity for dropping the ball, and he made up for it a bit today, but he's having a bit of an issue with that, Don. It's not just receivers. It's also DJ. DJ has had some drop issues, and he's the only tight end that I would single out in that regard. Iowa ended up forcing a 3-and-out on the following possession. Huge sack by Aaron Graves on an NFL type of move inside. Iowa gets a 40-yard field goal after another Sam Phillips catch on 4th and 2. So, yes, they kick the field goal, instead of going for it on 4th and 2, which I did not disagree with. Points are at a high value, but that was sort of the storyline all night, Don. Kirk Ferentz was going to make that conservative call. I'm guessing you agreed with it, getting points at the time, but that was a pretty conservative and pretty consistent approach all day.
You said it was a 40-yard kick?
It was a 40-yard kick, so Iowa had 4th and 2 at, the 23?
22 probably.
22
Probably
yards.
8 years back. Yeah, it's a tough call, but in Kirk's defense, we didn't get stoned a time or two with our running game, so we certainly wouldn't guarantee to gain the 2 yards. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, no, I didn't disagree with it at the time, and I knew exactly what Kirk was doing, and I've seen it work a lot. So, second quarter, I thought Deshaun Lee really showed out in this first half. Second quarter, great coverage on a slant that forces a punt, and we saw Deshaun Lee really struggle last week against Strong and against Duff in those types of situations. And Iowa has to punt in plus territory at the IU 40. That was a play that I thought, boy, you don't want Drew Stevens kicking it. And I know people are going to rip me for that because Drew missed a 42-yarder. But if they're at the Indiana 40, Don, I'm at least considering it. They ended up with a great punt play that ended up down at the 2. The guy heels on the 2, get away. He fields the ball at the 2/3 yard line. The problem is then Iowa gives up about a 70-yard drive where Indiana flips the field back. They do get a 4th and 1 stop, one of 2 different 4th down stops for the Hawkeye defense today. By the way, the 3rd down offense for Iowa, extremely efficient today. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. And then I thought terrific clock management into the first half. Iowa gets the touchdown with 17 seconds left. I thought it was tremendous clock management.
Let's back up. Could it not have been a little bit lower on our part?
I'm sorry?
Could we have not burned more time on the clock and left them with little or no time?
You're upset about 17 seconds?
Absolutely. Didn't they kick a field goal at the end of the half?
They kicked a field goal because of not 1, but 2 horrendously botched plays by the defense, one of which might have been affected by a bad roughing call.
But my point is, if you can eliminate that time even more and leave with maybe our field goal is the last play of the half.
Okay, so how would you tell me, how does Iowa, because I don't have the play-by-play in front of me, but I thought Iowa managed the clock quite well there to get that clock all the way down to 17 seconds. How could Iowa have done better than getting the clock?
Let me check the play-by-play. Let's face it, they shouldn't be able to score with the last 17 seconds on the clock.
Exactly.
But why tip fate? If you can get the clock lower, do it.
Wait a minute, but you're not advocating for Iowa to deliberately not score.
Of course not. Let's go back to the down and distance.
I thought Iowa did a pretty good job running the clock down as much as they could in those situations.
Well, maybe I'm wrong. That's why I want to check the clock.
Yeah, you look at the play-by-play, but off the top of my head, I don't have that in front of me, but it felt like Iowa did a pretty good job winding that clock down as much as they could to burn as much time off as possible.
We had 1st and goal at the 6 with 55 seconds left on the clock.
Okay.
I don't know how many timeouts we had.
They had plenty of timeouts. At least 2 timeouts.
Kamari ran from the 28 to the 6, and when we snapped the ball, 1st and goal to the 6, 55 seconds on the clock.
Okay. 55 seconds. When did he get down there to the inside the 5 or inside the 10?
This is with 1:32 left. Let me be sure. These times, what I don't know, these times that are on the play-by-play, is that when the ball is actually snapped, or is that simply, you know what I'm saying? If they're running a clock stoppage, we don't know for sure that's what was on the clock when the ball was snapped. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, but my point is, if there was about 1:25 or whatever it was when he went off for the big play, they snapped it again with about 55 seconds left. That means they burned most of that following play clock.
Let me back up here. We know this. There was a 2-minute timeout done at 1:59. Okay? If there's a play in progress, the clock keeps moving, right? They simply make the 2-minute timeout as close to 2 minutes as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So 2-minute timeout at 1:59 on the clock. When we snapped it was 3rd and 4. We ran for 3 yards. 4th and 1. We ran again. There was only 7 seconds burned. Maybe we went no huddle, I guess. I think we did go no huddle that time. I think we actually had that as part of our plan. I have to look at the TV tape to know sure. Anyway, we converted. We gained 2 yards. They gave us a first down at the 28. Now there's 132. Near as I can tell, we haven't taken a timeout yet.
Okay.
Take that back. We took 1 3rd and 1 when Indiana had the ball earlier. Oh, I'm sorry. Timeout by IU. That's not us, right? How do they rule us? Timeout by UI. So UI, that's what confused me. IU versus UI. IU is Indiana, UI is Iowa. So maybe that was our first timeout taken. 55 seconds, we snapped the ball. Let me back up. We ran for 22 yards. The time listed on the play is 1:32. That took us to the 6. Obviously, the clock stops while the chains are moving, right?
Uh-huh.
So the next time entry is 55 seconds. We run for 3 yards. It says timeout by UI. That's us. So we burned, I believe, our first timeout with 35 seconds on the clock. Okay? Then Gronowski runs middle for the touchdown.
Are we really going to fault Iowa for calling timeouts with 35 seconds left on the clock?
No, my point is, we should go to the next play, then we. I'll say it this way, Corey. When we converted for 22 yards, what would make you think we're going to gain 22 yards? We haven't had to play that long all day. I'm fully expecting we would kick a field goal somewhere further out, right? We couldn't count on that 22-yard game. My only point was let the clock go down before you take the timeout. Maybe we didn't have much of a chance, really, because we converted our first down, and then we know that we snapped the ball on the touchdown.
In my opinion, we're splitting hairs here, Don, because
I'm sorry, that's not. Go ahead.
In my opinion, we're splitting hairs here.
Here's my point.
You have no business, as the defense, giving up a field goal with 17 seconds left. You have no business doing that with a field goal.
I agree, Corey, but my point is, why tempt fate? Why didn't give him a chance? Just hear me out. Hear me out. Doesn't make sense if I can just explain it to you. 55 seconds, we had first and goal, right? We made the 22-yard run. I was fully expecting it's going to come to a field goal kick, maybe out. We were on the 28-yard line when Kamari made his 22-yard run. That's a 46-yard field goal, right?
Okay. What's your point?
That was first down, and all I'm saying, when we gained 22 yards on that play, we had first and goal at the 6. My God, you got 3 timeouts left, I believe, at that time.
Okay.
What is wrong with letting the clock get lower? Because if you don't score on third down, you simply need to have 1 timeout left, right? To kick it on fourth down. The last play of the half could have been the field goal attempt on fourth down. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, but my question is, how low do you let the clock run before you take your first down snap inside the 10-yard line at the end of the first half?
It really wouldn't matter as long as you recognize if we don't score on third down, we just need 1 timeout left on third down.
No, I know, but I'm saying, how long do you let it go down after you got that first down inside the 10? How long do you let the clock run down before you call a timeout? Because you need to assume you need time for at least 3 plays plus the field goal. And you got 3 timeouts, but when do you call the timeout if it's not at 55 seconds?
Well, at that point, again, I go back out. First down on the plus 28. At that point, with 1:32 on the clock, I know what you're saying, Corey. There's an argument either way. Truthfully, I was just hoping for a field goal at that point. Because we hadn't exactly been going up and down the field on them. Would you agree?
Well, but yeah, then you bust the 20-some-yard run.
The 22-yard gain changes everything.
Correct. Yeah.
All I'm saying, it wouldn't have bothered me. We ran for first down plus 28. Yeah, at that point, we could still hope for a touchdown, right? All I was hoping is just to be sure if we don't get a touchdown, that we don't leave them any time at all.
Okay, let's go to our next Iowa Smokehouse caller. We've got James, who's been on hold for quite a while. Thank you for being here and being patient, James.
First off, you were talking earlier about plays that cost us the game, kind of like you were talking about the kick. I actually think it's that 23-yard run, because if Shire makes that tackle, they probably don't call that play in that aspect. They probably just take it down to the end of the half, right? Because like if Shire makes the tackle, he loses 1 yard, maybe he doesn't get any yards, right?
You're talking about the end of the first half.
Yeah. If Shire makes the tackle, he probably didn't get anything, maybe 1 yard at the end of the day.
Is that when he went for 16?
The 20, I think that was 20. Was that yeah? I don't know. It's the one to give him, because they got the pass after that, and they got the 46-yard field goal, like 2 plays after that.
I know exactly what play you're talking about, and it was a huge play, not wrapping him up, but he's a guy. I believe that was, let's see, was that Hemby?
Yeah.
He ran for 16 yards.
But there was like 3 dudes that I'm saying, if one of those guys would have at least made that tackle, and you would have wrapped, they would have had him tackled for a gain of like 2 or 3, even that, they probably changed it differently, right? And the fact that they ran for 16 yards there, so then like, okay, now we got a chance to get in field goal range. And if they didn't even get field goal out of that, that probably changes the whole game. And I'm not saying obviously the kick is an important part if you need to make the kick, right?
Well, what killed us was the flag.
Well, yeah, but that wouldn't happen either if they would have made that tackle, is what I'm saying, because I don't think they would have called it as aggressively in that play, is what I mean. Like
I
that
think
play.
they would have been throwing. Once they gained the 16 yards,
No, I'm saying if he didn't.
You're staying on the first play of the drive.
Yeah, they shouldn't have allowed 16 yards there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying if he got a 1 or 2 yard gain, I don't know if they would have called it as aggressively. I think they would have took it to halftime and been like, hey, we're down 3, let's readjust from there.
I agree. I give credit. We can blame our tackling. Let's give some credit to the Indiana runners, because they did run hard.
Yeah, but I to me, that's just the point that it was kind of the turn point of, like, you don't understand obviously till the end of the game, right? But like if you hold them there, they probably just take it to half, and then everything readjusts from there, right? And obviously you can say whatever you want about the roughing the passer call, but you shouldn't have been. He to me, it looked like he got blocked into him, but he still shouldn't have. That was still too close to risk it anyways, right? Like,
did that appear to be a good call on the roughing the passer?
He got blocked into him. It looked like the dude's hand still reached out, and then when he reached out, Kenneth was still, his momentum was still carrying him towards the quarterback.
Yeah.
But you can't control that, obviously, so you just take it as it is. But it was a tough way to lose the game, obviously. And to me, it looked like Mark had a hyperextended his knee more than what it looked like anything tore or anything from the way he went down. But hopefully he'll be fine. You just don't know how it is. It sucks to lose a game like that when you're so close, but I'm just glad we kept it close.
My guess is with the week off, he'll be back.
Yeah, and it sucks because, usually we play bad out of the break, right? And I'm not trying to say that, but we have had a tendency to play bad out of a bye week. And
how do you have a tendency to play bad out of a bye week?
They do. They don't really do it good out of a bye week, though.
Don't you think that's odd, Don? Isn't that a concerning statement if it's true? I mean, it's sort of just like I need to know data. But to say we tend to play bad out of a bye week, that's sort of damning, isn't it?
I don't know that that's true. It seems like it's happened some of the time for sure, but I don't know that there's a heavy issue with it. I'm not sure.
Real quick, Eric, I want to thank you, Eric, for the super chat, because this came in quite a bit earlier in the show. Screen pass from a backup when there's a 2-minute timeout in college ball. That call will haunt Lester for a while. Christmas is officially canceled in that house. So somebody asked earlier, real quick, not to take it away from you, James, but somebody asked earlier about the screen pass. First of all, I don't have an issue with a passing call, right? So let's see here.
I'll be honest, Corey. At that point in the game, I turned to my buddy and I said I wouldn't mind seeing another screen. I said that.
So Mo says on the interception, why are we passing on third down when in field goal range? Here's the unique thing about it. I believe there was 2:07 on the clock. You have third down. So here's the situation, right? You don't want to give Indiana a free timeout via the 2-minute warning. But the reality is you're going to run 2 plays. Indiana is going to call a time. Indiana's likely going to call that last timeout after the third down play either way. So if you can get a safe passing play in, force that last timeout, the field goal should at least take you to the 2-minute warning, right? So you don't have to worry about that 2-minute warning being another timeout because the clock was going to stop for the field goal try anyway, for after the field goal make or miss.
Right.
If that makes sense. So, I mean, I didn't mind Iowa being aggressive there. I don't know that I wanted – the screenplay just needed to be executed. I don't know that they would have gotten the first down, but it was a really bad attempt by Hank Brown, Don. That pass wasn't even close.
I didn't have any issue with the call. I thought it was a sound call. We just didn't execute.
Just poorly executed by the quarterback, correct?
Yep.
So thank you, Eric, for the super chat. We appreciate that. Same thing with Corey. He says terrible tackling all game, bad coaching when Brown came in. Run it to the center, don't throw it, same old Iowa. Yeah, did you have issues with play calling other than the screen pass on that last drive when Iowa was I made the comment, Don, watching it. I said, it'd be nice to get a touchdown here. Let's not put this on the foot of the field goal kicker. Let's go get a touchdown. And instead, they put it on the foot of the kicker, and he missed it.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have an issue with play calling down the stretch there, Don?
Well, we don't really know. We don't know that much about Brown. I just give Tim Lester credit for knowing a lot more about his strengths and weaknesses than we do. I think he was trying to give him some throws that would give him some confidence. I give Indiana credit for playing him fairly well. Obviously, we didn't execute very well on the screen. That's the one that really hurt.
James, anything
Oh,
else?
no, it's not bad. He's still trying to talk.
Go ahead, James.
Oh, my bad. I thought Don was still trying to talk. I was just going to say, no, obviously the tackling was obviously a big part too, but they did come up with the big plays they needed to, and the whole Conan Stringer, like, playing all the safeties up on the fourth downs worked, obviously, in the fact of they ran the ball and Cohen made some great plays on both of them, two of them, right? Like, that whole situation worked out, and Phil probably shouldn't have called all that blitz there, but also I'm not gonna. Who am I here to question Phil, right? With all the success he's had, right? So who am I to question him about calling an all out blitz on third down, right? Like, and if he makes that tackle, who knows? They don't get the first down there. I mean, they still might probably in field goal range, right? But you don't know how that pans out, right? You know what I mean? Like, if he makes a tackle there, he's still short of the first down.
Well,
Probably.
I don't think he was short of the first down.
It would have been close. It would have been close.
I think he was going to get that first down no matter what. That's my opinion.
But you don't give a touchdown. At least you have to make them rely on the kicker to make the kick, though, or you could block the kick. You never know how a kick could go, though, is my thing.
The problem, that's true. That is true. But a field goal at least gives you the ball back with a chance to go tie it yourself. But
Yes. Also, that too. Either it gives you back a chance to tie the game up yourself, or you don't know how it could go. You could block it, you could miss, or something like that, too, right? But you just not making that tackle at all, give him a touchdown, and that pretty much put it away because you knew you weren't going to go back down the field. That's more my point was, right? Right. Like, even if he makes a tackle, even if he does get the first down, you still playing for a field goal there instead of playing, giving up a touchdown at that point. But no, it was tough, and obviously I hope Marks is healthy because without him, who knows what this team will be, right? It'll be interesting to see what he is, but he does have a bye week, and hopefully we get Reese back, and get some of these pieces back and looking better, obviously, on offense, right? It's going to be a weird gel because he hasn't had Reese all year, so if Mark is healthy, he hasn't had Reese, so it's kind of going to be like you have to throw him into that mix too and kind of get him acclimated again. Obviously, he's been in this system, but you know what I mean? Like, he hasn't been playing, right? So he has to get acclimated again with playing and all that stuff again, right? So it could be a little rough for him to start out with, but that'll be interesting to see.
Absolutely, James. Thank you for being here and for sticking with this and being patient with the show. I know we got a lot of people to get to, so thank you for being patient.
No problem. And obviously it's frustrating, but I'm always gonna be a fan no matter what the result is, win or loss. I'm always gonna support the team no matter what the result is, win or loss. And obviously you want to win every game, but that's not possible, right? For a lot of times. So you just have to just go with the good and bad and go with the ebbs and flows of how things work. So enjoy your night. And Don, congrats on being there, to celebrate that team. And obviously I wasn't alive at that point, but just anything in Iowa's history, is always important, just to see the history be brought back to the school, and the school that I grew up loving as a kid.
That's something we can be proud of. We were ranked number 1 for 5 weeks that fall. That's not easy to do because when you're number 1, of course, everybody's trying to knock you down. We survived until we got to this year.
Yep. Jill DeBeese, thank you for being a premium member. We appreciate that. And Jordan Gerling, thank you for the super chat. And let's see if we can find Jordan's comment. He says, if Lee is the best corner we have, we're in trouble for years to come. He is terrible. I thought he played pretty well today, Don. I mean, I thought Iowa's corners as a whole were pretty good, with the exception being that last play. Elijah Surratt's a legitimate NFL receiver, just like Ian Strong is a legitimate NFL receiver.
Yeah. Yeah, we put him in a tough spot. That was a nice throw. As I recall, the ball barely got out in time, but it did. So I give a tip of the hat to the quarterback and the receiver on that play. It was pretty much perfectly executed.
Bjorn Norgard says, Gronowski not in sealed defeat, injured or not. What does this mean?
I don't know.
Not.
Please clarify.
Yeah, I'm. Thank you for the super chat, though. We do appreciate that. And Richard, thank you for the super chat, Richard. On the missed field goal, the laces were facing 90 degrees to the left. I think we have a snap issue on those missed field goals. I agree. And Tom brought it up. I've said it before, but I was not going to come on here and make excuses because I don't know that. Not make excuses for Drew Stevens. I don't know what happened there, but I know there have been issues with snaps. There's a reason why they brought in a long snapper and why one long snapper is not taking care of both duties. They have one long snapper doing punts, one long snapper doing field goals, and the field goal long snapping has been shaky at best. Don, what can you tell us about laces as it relates to a place kicker?
I'm really not an expert on kicking, so I'm not really sure. I will guarantee you that Drew knows more about it. Drew is more the expert than any of us. He has an idea of where he wants the laces, and I don't know what that is. That's a good question for Drew.
Okay, let's go back to our chat. And Richard, thank you, Richard, for the super chat. Richard Peterson says on the missed field goal, okay, we just got this. Why is this popping back up? I thought we just covered that. Thank you, Richard, for the super chat. Jack, thank you for the super chat. Can we ask Coach why we weren't throwing the ball downfield much before the fourth, and what was going on with the clock management on the last Iowa series with no timeouts to discuss what they were going to do? Okay, so we can address that. We've addressed clock management into the first half. Don, I thought clock management on that last offensive drive was ridiculous. Very early in that last offensive drive, trying to go down the field and tie the game with a touchdown or win it with a 2-point conversion. You have a run play that does not go for a first down. You got 3 timeouts. Kill the clock with under 2 minutes to go. Why are you saving those timeouts? And oh, by the way, Iowa had all 3 timeouts when they turned the ball over there at the end. They had held on to all 3 timeouts, and yet there were under 30 seconds to play in the game. Call a timeout on 2nd and medium early in that 2-minute drive, Don. Am I correct?
Let me find it.
Jack, thank you for the super chat. Well,
Josh goes at 128.
Well, that's when the next play was snapped, I believe.
The first play was snapped at 126, it says.
Okay, 126.
Yeah. Let's see when we took our timeouts.
They didn't take timeouts, Don. They didn't call any timeouts on that drive. That's my
Right.
point.
I don't see one.
That's what I'm saying. They ran the ball and then tried to hurry back up there as opposed to calling a timeout in that situation. Let's be clear. They have no idea what they're doing with late game clock management and calling timeouts. They do not know what they're doing.
We had 3rd and 5. That's when we converted to Sam for 10, right?
But Don, back it up. I'm talking about the first play of that 2-minute drive. They go a 2-minute offense. They go handoff to Kamari Moulton for 6 yards, correct? Do you want me to pull
That's
up?
not what this says.
Okay, I'll pull it up. I'll pull up the play-by-play here so that we can find this and be accurate with what we're saying. So let's see. 4th quarter.
Says the first when drive starts at 128, right?
I'm going to find it here. Drive starts at 128. Okay, fine. Pass short, incomplete, and then short to Vanami. 120 left. They go pass short to Vanami for 5 yards.
Right.
You call a timeout there.
I would say 3rd and 5. We haven't taken any.
3rd and 5. That's exactly my point. You take it on 3rd and 5. You're about to have 3rd and 5 with a rookie quarterback who's never played meaningful snaps. And oh, by the way, the clock's your enemy. Call a timeout. You've got 3 of them, and you have the advantage of first down stopping the clock. The boundary stops the clock. You gain 5 yards there. Kill the clock on 3rd and 5. That wasted a good 20 seconds on the clock.
You're saying kill the clock with a timeout?
Yes, correct. Kill the clock with a timeout, not with a spike.
Well, let's face it, if we don't convert on 3rd and 4th, then the game's over. So, and not to mention, the pass was complete for a gain of 5. So clearly, while we're trying to get lined up, the clock's running. So the clock went from 120 down to 58 seconds. So
right. Exactly.
Valuable time went off the clock. It would have been a good time to take it then, take your first time out.
Yeah.
Can't argue that because now, thankfully, we did convert on 3rd and 5.
Right, and you blew that extra time. And they were still down. Let's not forget, they were still at 3rd and 5. They convert to Phillips for 10 yards to the Iowa 40. They were still in minus territory. They needed 60 yards, and now you have less than a minute to get it.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, you're going to start throwing down the field anyways at some point. Take the timeout early in the drive if you're going to throw short distance.
Well, in reality, 3rd and 5 on the minus 30. If we don't convert on 3rd and 4th, then the game's over. Right. So my point is, if we didn't hit that 10-yard pass, clearly we'd have taken a timeout then. Well, if it's incomplete, we might not have a course. But the bottom line, if 3rd and 5 becomes 4th and 5, sure as hell we'll take a timeout then. You can argue you don't even know that we're going to convert on 4th and 5. So wouldn't you at least have called your best play on 3rd and 5? And if you're really worried about it, go ahead and call a second play.
I'm not even concerned about the play calling in that situation. I'm more concerned about why are we hurrying up a very inexperienced quarterback on a critical down situation in a 2-minute offense, and you're burning time off the clock where you don't need to when you have 3 timeouts. You use a timeout there to save the clock. That's my main concern in that situation. Clock management, lack thereof. Well, again, they had all 3 timeouts with like 30 seconds left in the game. They had all 3 timeouts left. So, hindsight's 20/20. But I was calling it in the moment. I said, call a timeout. You're burning valuable time. So, and Jack's other question about Iowa not throwing downfield much before the 4th. It felt like they did early in the game to Sam Phillips. What was going on, Don, that you noticed why Iowa was not getting the ball, pushing the ball downfield, at least prior to Hank Brown entering the game for Mark?
I think part of our concern was just being able to buy enough time to be able to hit some deeper routes. Indiana did a good job. You know, they know how to heat up a quarterback. We only got sacked twice. We only sacked them once. But I guarantee both those quarterbacks took some hits shortly after the ball was thrown. Truthfully, I think it happened to Indiana more than it did us. But you know, I said going in, I was concerned if we don't run the ball well, we're going to be behind the chains. And now that's what gets you in trouble on pressure. It's when you're looking at 2nd and long, 3rd and medium, 3rd and long. That's where all the sacks came, of course, against Illinois. That's when they really get into some exotic pass rushes. It's when you're behind the chains on critical downs, especially.
Yeah, I really don't see many Indiana trolls in the chat, Don. I wonder why that is.
They're pretty quiet. They feel lucky to get out of town with a win, that's for sure.
Yeah. Okay, and then comment here from, let's see, super chat coming in from Lomansky. Thank you, Lomansky. We lose if we only win one of these 3 phases. Too much tattled on Phil. Great physicality from X and TJ Hall. And Don, your 2 keys, thank you, Lomansky, for that. Your 2 keys were out rushing the opponent, out sacking the opponent. Iowa got one of those done, only allowed 1 sack on Gronowski. But the problem is they did not outrush Indiana. Although it was close and very narrowly, it was almost enough to get the job done. I think the bigger issue, Don, if you're looking at one stat, not just the one play, but the one stat that hurt Iowa the most, it's ultimately being let's see. Let me find the numbers here. It's let me just confirm this before I make a dumb comment. It being -2 in turnovers, correct?
Yeah.
Where's turnovers on here, Don? You're better at reading a stat sheet than I am.
1 second, I'll tell you. Nobody lost a fumble. They intercepted. We threw 2 picks. They threw 1. We were only -1.
Okay. Where is fumble? Turnovers on an official box score? Why am I not seeing them?
There's not one. You got to add them together.
Why?
It's silly because some people get a little confused.
Stupid. Okay. Stupid.
Yeah.
Got it.
You see the line there for passing stats.
Yeah, I'm seeing that.
So there's the 2 interceptions on our part and the one that they threw. And then down below, you have to look up fumbles. They fumbled twice, didn't lose either one.
Right.
We fumbled once, didn't lose it either.
Scott, thank you for the super chat. Scott Jensen says, D is impressive. Offense shaky on quarter 1 with interception, but improved later. Indiana is a top Big Ten team. Bad fourth quarter luck, hang tough, not an embarrassment. So, Scott, we appreciate that perspective. And I'm still not ready to anoint Indiana as a power in this league, Don. I'm not. I think that's a very good team they played, but I don't know how good is very good. Is it great? Is it Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State level? By the way, Oregon and Penn State, these two offensive juggernauts, Don, are tied 3-3 in the third quarter. So it is what it is in Happy Valley. We'll keep our eye on that one. And then super chat here. Let's see. No, we got our super chat. So folks, if you want your comment prioritized, you can throw a super chat up. Let's go to our next caller. Before we do that, did we finish? We finished our discussion on notes. I mean, I know you've got a bunch of notes, but we talked about the first half, and then the third quarter just became a punt contest. I thought Xavier Wampa played really well, contrary to what some people in the chat may have you think. Cohen Entringer, Don, he's our player of the game, our RTI Threads player of the game. Talk just a little bit about what you saw from Cohen. He was integral on some big fourth down stops, finished the game with 10 tackles, 7 solo, 2 tackles for loss. This felt like his coming out party as I was starting strong safety.
Yeah, let me see those numbers again. Here we go.
They're up on the screen, Don.
7 solos, 3 assists, 2 tackles for loss. Yeah, I don't remember. You're right. He was in on a lot of tackles, that's for sure. And Zach is the one with the interception return.
And I believe Cohen was also involved with both fourth down stops, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was proud of the DBs in general. I know we can find some cases of when they didn't get the back on the ground, but at least they were playing with a lot of ferocity. There were some hard hits taken on those backs. I remember one time TJ had a really big hit too, as I recall.
Yes, he did. But Cohen Entringer is our RTI Threads player of the game with 10 tackles, 7 solo, 2 tackles for loss. Let's go back to our phone line, our Iowa Smokehouse phone line. We got Corey here with us. Corey, welcome.
Good evening, guys. Sorry, my voice is a bit shaky. Headed back on my 500-mile journey back home, but I just want to ask you guys this. After we spotted them 7 points, did you think we were going to be in a position where we had a game-winning potential drive to win the game? Did you foresee that we might still be in that position?
I didn't know. I mean, I know some people are probably throwing their arms up in the air, but I still thought they had 7 points doesn't end the game.
Right.
Don, I mean, your thoughts after that interception? I wasn't doom and gloom after that. I thought it was a horrible way to start.
I wasn't either. It's the worst possible start, but our guys are mentally tough. I wasn't worried about them saying, woe is me, and we're going to give up the ship. I wasn't worried about that at all. They fought back.
I guess, and if you look at the coaching perspective, and you look at, I'll give you my take. KF put this team in a position where they could have won this game, and they didn't make the plays. And if you want to badmouth KF and his coaching, I'll tell you where you can go is you can go to his players and his skill. And if you want to badmouth him, you also need to be honest and revisit the NIL collective fund.
Who is bad mouthing him?
Oh, all these people on how he should retire and
well, that's those opinions aren't going to change for any
yes,
reason.
And asking if he loses every game this year, should he retire? Okay, so Indiana's NIL fund is at least $3 million greater than Iowa's. Okay, so of all these guys telling me that KF should retire, how many of them are swarm members? Because I'm an Iowa State graduate and I'm a swarm member. Are you guys that are bad-mouthing KF a swarm member? Because that's the difference is if you don't think KF outcoached.
Real quick, just for the record, I will say there are some swarm members, because I've heard from them, Corey, that really got torqued off because they were fundraised through and they feel like they got a rotten deal with the Cade McNamara experience. So you can understand why people maybe were a little bit grumpy after that.
Yeah, and it sucked for me too, but I didn't quit on the team.
No, I'm not saying you quit. I'm just saying you have to understand why some people may have been turned off by NIL.
The same people that quit on the NIL are the same people that quit on the coach and quit on the team and turn against the team. And I just think as a fan, you have to have some level of loyalty. And I tell you what, I'm pretty proud. And the Indiana fans that I sat next to were pretty impressed with this team and how they just keep improving. Yeah, they weren't perfect. But you know what? KF doesn't have. You're telling me we had the same skill level players as Indiana? Those guys, 13 and 3, are elite. That running back is better than our running back. Okay, so they got better players. Now, if you want to go after KF, in my opinion, then you can say he doesn't recruit as good a talent. Then I'm going to come back with you that he's got $3 million or $3.4 million less in his NIL fund. And so you get what you pay for, boys and girls, just like KF's salary versus Signetti's salary. You get what you pay for. And you know what? In the end of the day, I'd rather have KF all day. You could have Signetti. You can have him. That's all I got.
Thank you, Corey. Appreciate your phone call. Don, you want to respond to those comments?
Well, I certainly think that our coaches gave us a chance to win the game. You could argue that they're too conservative on offense, but the bottom line is against a very good Indiana team. Despite a terrible start, we fought back, and at the end of the game, we had a chance still to win the game. If we make the field goal, we're up by 3, we probably do win the game, but we'll never know. But you're right about one thing. Phil would not have, if we were defending a 3-point lead, I think it's safe to say he would have not been as likely to go blitz on 3rd and 10 if they were having to work against the clock to break the tie. I'm sorry, to break the lead.
Okay, super chat here from Bjorn. I think he's trying to clarify his previous super chat, so we thank you for that, Bjorn. And by the way, somebody in the super chat said, I want my $9.99 back. You missed my super chat. I didn't miss anybody's super chat. Just because you throw a super chat does not mean it's going to get addressed within the first 5 minutes or 10 minutes. We appreciate the donation, the super chat, but we've got a long laundry list. I do not miss super chats, okay? So I promise your super chat was read if you threw a super chat up there. Promise that. So thank you for the donations. Bjorn says, my point on Gronowski is that he looked like he could have played. In my opinion, if Drew hits a field goal with 2 minutes left, I don't love Iowa's chances of holding 17 seconds in the second quarter. Iowa needed a touchdown. Well, I can see that argument, but boy, I'd much rather play with a 3-point lead there, Don, with an Indiana team that would have had 2 minutes left to go tie or win the game.
Well, I made this comment in the third quarter. I said, I'm hopeful that we get to the end of the third quarter and we're still tied, but we'll beat them in the fourth quarter when we have the wins.
Yeah. Bjorn, again, thank you for the super chat. He adds, with this super chat, character limits on super chats are tough. So thank you for that, Bjorn. We do appreciate it. Let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Coach Tom Patterson. Who's on the line?
Hey, Big Al.
Hey, Big Al. We got you. Good to hear your voice.
Yeah, hey, a couple things. So first off, I don't know if you guys have talked about it yet or not, but did you discuss the Vegas line yet?
The Vegas line. Was it like 8?
Yeah.
It was like 8.5.
Well, yeah, it was 8.5 on game day. It opened at 5.5.
Yeah. So
so much money went on it initially, which you understand why.
Yep.
When you saw that initial line.
Because people overreact. Like I said, when the line opened, people overreact. Yep.
So Indiana's sitting there at -5.5, and they have a 7-point lead until they sprinted back 42 yards to take that safety, and the game ended at -5. So I just thought that was humorous.
They call that a bad beat over on ESPN, right?
Yeah, and I don't know that I've seen a worse one in my lifetime. Just to let you know, I would be pretty horrified as I watched that quarterback sprint 42 yards toward his own end zone. So,
yeah. I didn't even think about that. It's a great point, Al. The fact that the game opened as in Indiana's favor. Iowa covered either way, but they wouldn't have covered for everybody. They would not have covered had that last play not occurred. And I didn't even see it happen, Don. Honestly, I'm getting set up. I knew the game was over. I didn't even know that happened. So I had the wrong score on the screen to start this post-game show. And then I quickly saw on the ESPN app, okay, it says 20-15. So
yeah. Well, truthfully, correct me if I'm wrong. When he took that snap the last time, how many seconds were left?
I have no idea.
2 or 3, I think.
Okay.
My point is, all he had to do is just run back for 15 yards or so. The clock's on 0. Get down. Game over. Don't have to give up the safety.
I did. Oh, I'm sorry. I did just want to say I've called in many times and been as critical as anybody over the years, but with this game, I just didn't. I felt like overall we called a good game, and there are those days where it feels like you're right-handed and you're doing everything with your left hand. Kind of felt like that was today, in between the injuries and then like I disagree with people that say Gronowski looked like he could have played. If you played football before, it's a contact sport. You're out there. If you have a bum knee, especially when you're a quarterback, you're pushing off maybe on the other side, but you're landing on that one, and then the fact that he's getting flushed out of the pocket and getting pressure and needing to be able to react as naturally as possible. And who's to say on a pressured throw, he could even make a throw that would have been accurate. He might have thrown it the wrong direction. I think it's way better to trust the player always to know if he can go or not. So that's all I got.
Here's another consideration. If he's a little bit injured and you put him back on the field, it's safe to say he's more at risk as a result of that minor injury, which might lead to a more serious injury later. That's another reason not to have him out there.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Al. Appreciate the call, sir. All right. Good stuff. Yeah, I know there's a lot of frustration and understandably so, even though we're 2.5, almost 3 hours into this postgame show. So keep it coming, folks. I see a question in the chat about the phone line. Brett Holman wants to know the phone line number. If you're calling in by phone, it's 515-635-1601, or you can call in via StreamYard. The link is in the description of the video on YouTube. All right, let's go back to our live chat. We've got Skylar wanting to know about the timeouts there. Yeah, again, clock management, don't quite understand it, but I've had an issue with Kirk's. Don, I want a yes or no on this. Is it or is it not does the buck not stop with the head coach on clock management?
Well, unless he's delegated that responsibility to an assistant.
But I'm saying, okay, if he's delegated the responsibility to an assistant and the assistant has butchered that year after year after year, this is the same clock management we saw under Brian Ferentz. This is, I'm not blaming Tim Lester for any of this. The clock management issue I think that we saw there at the end of the game is the same issue we saw repeatedly under the previous offensive regime, which tells me either someone else on this staff is in charge of clock management, or ultimately, either way, the buck stops with Kirk Ferentz because it's not been addressed fully. It has not been fixed.
It's Kirk's responsibility unless he delegates it to someone else.
And it has not been fixed. Jack, thank you for the premium membership. We appreciate being a premium member. Cheese Curds, same thing. Thank you for being a premium member. Bobby Nielsen brings up the laces. Thank you, Bobby, for being a premium member. Amanda reminding everybody, hit that like button, even if you're grumpy. And follow in Amanda's footsteps. Be a premium member here on YouTube. REM Properties, same thing. Thank you for being here. Dennis, he's in the chat. Thank you for being a premium member. I'm trying to call all of our premium members out. Kyle Dupik is also here. He brings up the laces. Good to hear from you, Kyle. Bad hold. Laces started out, only got off to the side a bit. So there you go. If you were curious about that, Don, that's been commented on several times. So, and then Lance, thank you for being a premium member as well. Comment here from Neil. What was the spread on the game? I know it was 7-ish, that safety throw. Okay, I think we just addressed that. It apparently opened as a 5.5 point spread. Obviously, was bet up by people who overreact. But yeah, the last safety made it a 5-point game. So Bjorn says, if Iowa loses the rest of their games, why is this on my chat again? Well, I literally thought I already dismissed this. I think it's a ridiculous question. If they lose the rest of their games, are we really suggesting that they're going to lose the rest of their games? I don't know why we're even addressing that. Murph says, Coach, please explain why we ended the game with all 3 of our timeouts. It's mind-blowing.
Well, clearly when we got down to 4th down, we turned it over on downs, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is we can talk about this till we're blue in the face.
At the very least, clearly on 4th down, it makes no sense that you wouldn't burn a timeout. Because if you fell on that play, the game's over. So at the very least, you call one on 4th down.
All right. And then comment here from Max. He says, I've never heard of a victory delay before. Does anybody know what that means? That was apparently what the officials called there in the final seconds. I missed that part. Because, again, I was setting up for this show. Don, do you know about a victory delay?
I'm not sure what he means by that.
Well, no, wasn't that called by the officials tonight at the end of the game?
All I know is on 3rd and 14. I'm sorry, 3rd and 14. He took a knee for a loss of 5. We took a timeout, right? When it says 4th and 19, that's when they ran backwards. It's not recorded here, but we clearly took a timeout after that 3rd down knee, right?
Yeah, you're telling me information I don't know because I wasn't watching.
The only timeouts recorded were after 1st down and after 2nd down. But clearly after 3rd down, we took our last timeout. Then they resorted to running backwards to give up the safety.
Yeah. Michael brings up the laces as well. Would that affect the flight of the ball? Again, Don said he's not a field goal kicking
expert. I'm not an expert.
Yeah.
But knowing our phones, I bet if you Google it, you'll be able to read up on it.
Right. Todd says, another heartbreaker. When will we ever get back to winning these types of games? Proud of the defense overall, but in the end, best baller wins. Their QB1 is elite. And Nate Smith says, linebacker play is lacking. Nate, I love your song, whatever your song. You got a couple of good songs on the radio right now, so thank you for that. And then Chad also adds that Harrelson is awful. I'm assuming he's talking about Harrell, Jaden Harrell.
Yeah.
But Don, did you think linebacker play was awful, or are we just kind of?
Well, I'll admit this: when I saw the stats, I was disappointed with the numbers. Jaden had 2 solos, 2 assists, total of 4 tackles. Carson Shire had 1 solo, 2 assists, total of 3. That's not very many.
Josiah says the show is hard to listen to and you bring people like this on the show. Stop giving unknown people a mic. Well, it's called a call-in show, Josiah. So if you don't like a call-in show, I'm sure you can go to other less interactive shows, but that's what a call-in show is. Mike says our field goal kicker let us down tonight, and announcers were bragging him up, and then he missed field goals. Knew it was probably over then because we had other chances in their territory. So, yeah, that seems to be the common denominator here. Circle Herc says, serious question. How important is the Chris Doyle firing? This gets brought up every year when Iowa loses. It seems to me tackling and toughness has been on the decline ever since he was forced out. I think the offensive line, I mean, everybody wants to point to the offensive line and the struggles they had for years after Chris Doyle was fired on, but the O-line seems to be a strength of this team. Maybe pass pro wasn't great tonight, but we keep hearing about these pro football focus grades. I don't perceive that this has anything to do with the Chris Doyle firing because, again, the offensive line seems to be as physical and aggressive as they have been in the past. Am I wrong on that?
Well, the only mystery, of course, when you look at the numbers, 31 attempts for 92 yards. Is that right? Yeah.
Let's see. Net yards for Iowa. Let's see. Net 92 yards. 31 attempts, 92 yards.
Yeah. And you might say, well, they only had 104. But let's not forget, they went 40 yards backwards on the last play of the game.
True. Good point.
So, I remember as I was watching through the game, they were out rushing us throughout the game. They typically had not a lot more yards than we did, but enough to make it a concern because the lower rushing total told me we're not ahead of the chains very, very often. Sometimes we were, but other times we absolutely were not.
Asa says he or she just got back from the game and that I need facial hair. So, I don't know what to do. You can't be a people pleaser, Don. So
this means you start growing it back until Iowa wins.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just no shave November, I guess. No shave October coming up.
Well, we'll get our next win against Wisconsin. Wait and see.
Okay, so Brett brings up something about listening to the game post-game on actual radio with the coaches taking the difference between that sentence makes no sense. The difference between the game-winning catch was we blitzed, but Coach Sig said they ran it early. I'm sorry. There's too many errors with that comment. I can't even begin to pick it apart. So we're not going to. Tom wants to know, do you think Hank Brown is going to be the next year's quarterback?
I think it's hard to say that that's the case, simply because I've heard a lot of good things about our number 3.
You say that again?
I've heard good things about our number 3 quarterback too.
Yeah, exactly. I have as well. So I'm not saying he's ready to play right now, Don, but I don't know. I just find it a little bit odd that Mark is out there on the sidelines with his helmet on if he can't go back in the game to even function as a pocket passer in that situation.
That maybe just because he wants to know what the calls are?
Say that again?
He's got his helmet on. Doesn't that mean he can hear the calls as they're given to Hank?
Why would he know what the calls are? Only one guy has access to helmet communication.
You know that for a fact. I'm not sure.
That was when it first launched.
There's only one guy on the field with a helmet that works. But are we saying that Brown switches? I mean, how do you get the helmet ready to go in the game then?
How could you possibly monitor if you allow more than one guy to have access to helmet communication? How could you possibly regulate that? Like only one of you could be on the field. I mean, how could you regulate that?
Well, tell me how Hank Brown's helmet is ready to go. Maybe it's equipped with the equipment and simply not turned on, I guess.
That's my guess. My guess is that they're only allowed to have one helmet turned on, so to speak. I'm assuming.
Could be. I don't know the particulars on the rule.
Yeah. Don, anything else that before we kind of wrap this thing up, is there anything else that I'm missing that you want to touch on specifically, kind of about where this game went wrong? And obviously we're heading into a bye week. Anything else that we haven't touched on?
Well, I just wish we didn't give up the field goal at the end of the half. And one thing I always emphasized with a lot of those intermediate throws, keep the ball under the chin. If it's muffed below the chin, it's going to go on the ground. If it's above your shoulders and it's tipped, we know what might happen, and it's not good. So I know people complain about the low throws, but again, I'd rather have a low throw than a high throw. Hope that makes sense. We had to dig out a ball or two that was low. But those tip passes, they kill you.
They do, yeah. And Destiny Pirate says, artificial turf beat us, taking our QB1 and receiver 1 with non-contact injuries. Time to make a call for a natural grass field. This has been a topic for conversation for years, Don.
I don't think so.
You don't think
I'm no expert about injuries on turf versus grass, but let's face it, you have to play on artificial turf almost every week of the season. And if you're a grass team and you're having to play on turf, that's a little bit of an issue too. There's a different stadium with different footing than what you have.
Ryan wants to cut Drew Stevens. So
he's the same guy that made one for 54.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
And hit the kickoffs out of the end zone. So
who are you going with if you cut Drew Stevens? There's not some free agent pool that I'm aware of that Iowa can just dip into and sign midseason. So, Oregon looks like Oregon is leading Penn State by 7. So we'll keep that. We'll keep an eye on that. Of course, that game in the I believe fourth quarter, right? Is that what that said?
Late in the third.
Third quarter. Louis says, what was the deal with the timeouts? What was the message? So the timeouts there at the end, I guess we're assuming that means Kirk was trying to send a message, but you had 3 timeouts because they didn't use them earlier. I don't see any problem with calling them and maybe thinking, hey, maybe there'd be a botched snap or something. I have no issue with calling those timeouts. What's the issue there?
I would have used all 3 of them on first, second, and third downs. After first, second, and third downs. Make them snap it one more time.
Wawa Coffee says, Marcus had the brace on all year. It's just under his pants and socks. Is that true, Don?
Probably a lot of guys, just as a precaution, they talking about the left knee.
I don't know which knee. All I know is that the brace was visible. The brace was visible when he came out of the tent.
A lot of quarterbacks have a brace on their left leg if they're right-handed, just to protect that lead leg.
Yeah. Mitch says, how is there not a penalty on Indiana's sideline when Wampa was smoked? Or after Wampa smoked Mendoza out of bounds, Wampa seemed to be mauled by the Indiana sideline, Don. I don't know why there wasn't an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on the Indiana sideline, but it wasn't called.
Well, from my vantage point, I was fearful that we were going to get flagged for a late hit, but wasn't contact in bounds. Was Wampa good with contact?
Oh, it was a phenomenal play by Wampa. You're trying to make a play. You're trying to make a play to prevent him from getting the first down. You better lay a hit.
Yeah. But it was a purely illegal hit, you're saying.
Right. Barbara, thank you for being here as well, for being a premium member. Clint Eastwood, 12. This was exactly like when Ohio State got blown out, right? No one ever said that. Again, listening is a skill that gets developed at the middle school / intermediate school level. So you might see if there's some classes available online, it might help in scenarios like this, or even maybe more impactful scenarios in life moving forward. Walt Moss Jr. says 2 weeks till the Wisconsin game. That's all that matters. So yeah, lots of truth there. Let's go to what might be our final Iowa Smokehouse caller of the night. We got Kevin. Kevin.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good. A little frustrated. I don't have cable, but I was watching the game on Peacock, and it was a pretty good game. I personally thought Iowa was going to get blown out. Okay, I'm sorry. But
you don't have to apologize. You can just admit you were wrong.
Right, I was wrong, but I'm just it was so close. I think what we should have done on 3rd and 5 was run it because I think they knew that we were going to throw it on 3rd down. Once was it Lutmer picked it off? Mm-hmm. He picked it off on them, and when he came back, it was horrible. But
that's a play. I mean, I mentioned it earlier in the show, Don, but that's a play that, as a fan, you just want to see Lutmer take that back for 6, and that's a big ask. He had a nice return, got him in field goal range. That should have been enough, but the reality is it wasn't. And obviously, it would have been great to see him take that one back for 6 and remove any doubt at that point.
Right.
So, I thought he had a chance to go to the house, but a nice return. It's hard to make it all the way to the end zone.
Because once Lutmer picked that off, I was jumping up and down. But then that missed field goal interception, I was like, "Come on, man!" So it is what it is. I mean, do you guys see? Do you guys see us going 10-2, or do you think that's not going to happen?
If they go 10-2, they're in the playoff, buddy boy.
Right.
If they go 10-2, that means winning at USC, Oregon, and Penn State. They're in the playoff, buddy boy.
Right.
My only focus right now is going 4-2.
Yeah.
My focus is Mark Gronowski going to be a shell of himself moving forward?
Right.
That's my fear. Like, Don, is his mobility going to be hampered the rest of the year because of this?
Well, what did they describe as his injury right now?
There wasn't a description. Kirk just said that they were concerned with his inability to decelerate, but apparently he didn't act like it was something that would keep him out for the season. But I worry, with his mobility, Mark takes a beating every week, and his legs are one of his biggest assets.
I would think the bigger priority would be on Mark's ability to accelerate. So I'm just confused about what that even means.
Right.
I guess it means he can't change directions very well.
Right. Yeah. Why do we care about decelerating? Yeah, just COD, I guess. Right. I mean, that's
ties into changing direction, I guess. Because when you do change directions, effectively you decelerate before you change.
And real quick, Kevin, I just segue real quick to our Big Grove's big play of the day because you brought it up. Lutmer's play, Don. That's a great catch by Zach Lutmer. I mean, it gets overshadowed because it doesn't end in a field goal and a win. But, I don't know who the pressure was from. I'd have to go back if it was Llewellyn, if it was Herkett. Maybe Don. But Lutmer made a wide receiver-esque play on the ball to catch that and then return it 38 yards. That was our Big Grove's big play of the day. And under 3 minutes to go when he took it back to the Indiana 29.
Yeah, at that point, I thought we were going to win the game.
I did too. That's a pretty good way of summing it up, right?
Yeah. Here's our concern IU was they burned a timeout after 1st down, and they burned a timeout after 2nd down. And then they faded 3rd and 5. I honestly didn't think it was a bad call. We simply didn't execute.
Yeah. Kevin, anything else?
Yeah, I just wish we can go back to 2015 where we were undefeated. But that's not good. 10 years ago. And I think this, I couldn't watch the Big Ten championship in 2015 because I'm 26 now, but I was grounded and at my mom's house, so I couldn't watch the game. I was upstairs and my family was downstairs watching it. But ooh, I think
that's a harsh penalty, Don.
You weren't even allowed to watch the game?
He must have done something really bad.
My parents grounded me. My parents grounded me. So, but I think after we lost to Michigan State in the Big Ten championship and got absolutely steamrolled by Stanford by Christian McCaffrey, I think Kirk Ferentz was like, you know what? I'm just done. I'm like, come on.
Corey went away, I guess. Well, what else you got for me? Anything?
Oh.
Oh, there he is. He's back.
Oh, there you are.
I'm back.
But yeah.
Anything else, Kevin? I agree. 2015 was special. So
Yeah,
they run the table. They're 10-2. Nobody believes that's going to happen.
Yeah,
I will say this for all the fans down and out. I guess if magic happens, 9-3 is not impossible. But man, it's going to be incredibly hard. It's looking more now after the loss today. It's looking more like 8-4 is probably the most reasonable, good result that can come from these final 7 games. So, all right, Kevin. Appreciate you being here, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate the call. Big Grove's big play of the day. Zach Lutmer's 38-yard return after his interception late in the 4th, which unfortunately did not prove to be the nail in the coffin for the Hoosiers because Iowa missed the field goal and Indiana drove the field, scored a touchdown. That was all she wrote. All right, folks, final score 20-15. Indiana defeating the Hawkeyes on this Saturday evening. We thank everybody for being here, our great sponsors. As always, Iowa Floor Covering, RTI Threads, Iowa Smokehouse, Brad Van Meter, Big Grove Brewery in Des Moines, Omaha, Iowa City, Cedar Rapids. If you missed our announcement, it's scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Myself and Tyler Kluver, former Iowa long snapper and current Washed Up Walk-Ons host, will be live at Big Grove Brewery in Des Moines next Friday, 6 p.m. Friday at 6 p.m. Please come out, show support, have a drink, have some food, or just sit and enjoy yourself because we're going to do that next Friday, 6 p.m. during the bye week. And of course, folks, if you have not yet done so, be sure you at least go over to RTI Threads and browse the selection that they have because they've been sponsoring our post-game coverage, not just football, but they've been a sponsor throughout a number of our different post-game shows throughout the last couple of seasons. This is their website. If you've not seen it, this is the NIL division of their website. So you can select any of the great Hawkeye athletes on here. They're all starters. They're all performing really well. Jacob Gill had a couple of big catches today. Aaron Graves with that huge sack early. Zach Lutmer was phenomenal. I know people were frustrated with Carson and the linebacker group, but I think Carson's played pretty darn well this year. But you can browse the selection of, say, a Zach Lutmer type of guy on this great website, rtithreads.com/NIL. Customize your gear, get it the color you want. Get your ball cap, get your stocking cap ready for winter. And as you support our sponsors like rtithreads.com, you can support our show. You can support the athletes, the Hawkeye athletes, Hawkeye football as a whole. These are ways to do so. Again, very easy to put in your order, customize, get your orders placed for your friends, your family, whatever the case may be, and great selection on all of their gear. Again, rtithreads.com/NIL to browse the selection of, let's get our faces back on here. Here we go. Browse the selection of Carson Shire, Zach Lutmer, Jacob Gill, Aaron Graves, RTI athletes, and official sponsors here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. All right, Don, we'll probably talk again before why are we switched around? Let's change that around. All right, here we go. We'll talk again before we get to Wisconsin because we got a bye week here this next week. Should we take one more call?
Sure.
We've got one more person waiting to call in here. Why am I not seeing our banner? Okay. StreamYard's decided to be weird. So that's okay. Let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Coach John Patterson. Who's on the line?
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm, emotionally exhausted from today's game.
Okay.
Just thinking about this season, I think Iowa's 2 losses have just been excruciating, painful losses that they very easily could have won. And I think in Kirk Ferentz's tenure, the difference between the teams that go 10-2, 11-2, versus the teams that go 7-5 are the teams that kind of win these kinds of games. And I think if you lose a game or 2 of these, it's just kind of a snowball effect. And I think it's a hard, emotionally difficult thing to recover from. And my second thought is somebody said Kirk Ferentz was trending up. I'm sorry, but coaching is a young man's game, and he's not 40, he's 70, and I think, unfortunately, it's time to move on. Like the basketball program, how we got a young coach. I think that's kind of what I'm just tired of watching the same thing over and over again. So those are my thoughts.
Oh, you have every right to your opinion, and you're certainly not. I'm not saying you're in the majority or the minority, but you're certainly not the only one that has that opinion, and you have every right to it. Don, he's been here 27 years or whatever it's been, or 26 years. I think Kirk has deserved. I think he's earned the right to call it quits when he chooses. Now, if they go under 500, caller, if they go 5-7, and I don't think that will happen. But if they go 5-7, that might change things. Maybe that speeds up the process. But if they go 7-5, 8-4, which is I think most likely at this point, given the early losses, I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think 7-5, 8-4 is enough to get him out. But I understand your frustration.
No, I agree with you. I do not think this is a Fran McCaffrey situation. I think Kirk Ferentz has been here so long. He has so much power at the university. I do think that when his contract is up, either he's going to retire then or he might call it quits a year or two from now. But he's definitely not going to fire him. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But there's two very, very tough losses this year. That's just tough to come back from emotionally.
No, 100%. I mean, and two losses they've played. I mean, Rutgers was close. It ended up being a 10-point win. But in their two biggest games so far this season, they've come up short in both of them. They've lost them in different ways, but they've lost both of them in close games. One was they gave up a game-winning field goal and couldn't do anything offensively. This one, they missed a potential game-winning field goal, gave up a touchdown, and then couldn't do anything offensively. So, yeah, I mean, I think on a micro level, 2-minute offense is still a problem, and they got some things to clean up on special teams to the point we've discussed so far on the show. On a macro level, there are some things that I continue to be frustrated with, one being clock management. That does, I think the buck stops with Kirk, but there's going to be some people that, like our caller Corey earlier, that really resent that opinion because they love themselves some Kirk Ferentz. And that's, I like to be a balanced bystander because I appreciate everything Kirk has done, but I also know that good things do come to an end. I'm not saying it's now. Like I said, I might have a different opinion if they go 5-7, 6-6, but I don't think that will happen. But your Ferentz fatigue is not exclusive to you, and you know that.
Right. No, absolutely. And I respect him a lot. I think he's done a lot of great things at the university. But, I mean, every coach has, I don't care who you are, Bobby Bowden, Joe Paterno. I don't care how high you were before. Everybody has the time where it gets stale and it's just time to move on to young blood. Coaching requires a lot of energy and, a fresh perspective. And I just think we're it's been 25, 26 years now, a quarter of a century. I think it's just time for something new. That's how I feel.
I respect your opinion 100%.
Yeah.
Anything else, Colin?
All right, that's all I want. Nope, that is it. Have a very good night, and we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir. Don, that's it. I have no issue with that opinion. I know you're a good friend of Kirk Ferentz's. Fans have a right to feel the way they want to feel. We get this every year. We have gotten these opinions every single year. If a fan gets tired of seeing this brand of football, the offense is better, it looks different, but the brand is still on brand. The brand is not going to change until the leader and founder of that brand, Kirk Ferentz, and I wouldn't even say he's a founder because I think he inherited a lot of it from your guy, Hayden Fry. There are differences there, but the co-founder, the founder of that brand, until he's gone, the Iowa way of doing things is not going to change. And so, there's risk in making changes. Just ask Wisconsin, just ask Nebraska. We know that, but he's closer to the end than he is the beginning.
Right. The frustration I have on that last drive, it started at 128, and we did convert a couple of times, of course, to move the ball. We had first down to plus 49. We still need a touchdown, of course. And then incomplete. The only thing confusing to me, I understand you don't want to use your timeouts too early, but my gosh, if we're down to fourth down, at the very least, you take a timeout before fourth down.
Yeah.
And we're on the plus 49. There are plays that are designed to be a Hail Mary, we call it. There's a Hail Mary possibility there. I don't know how strong his arm is. Obviously, it's a long throw to get to the end zone. But at the very least, if you don't think you can throw a Hail Mary from the plus 49, at least you burn one timeout of 4th and 10, because obviously you got to gain 10 yards at least. And once you gain 10, then you can worry about, obviously you're in good Hail Mary shape then if you're on the plus 39. But anyway, we needed to make better use of those last couple of snaps, because if we don't convert, the timeouts don't matter anyway. You got to use them at least one or two.
Folks, real quick update on Oregon-Penn State. I see people blowing up the chat about it. Penn State trailing 17-3 in the fourth quarter. So there you go. 17-3 fourth quarter. Penn State driving into Oregon territory. So this game's not over. And just as I say that, a 35-yard touchdown pass by Drew Allard to Devontae Ross, which cuts the lead to 7. Let's see, 10 minutes to go in the fourth. So that game not over. And that is over on NBC. Commander Cody, thank you for being here and for being a premium subscriber. And I see the question from Cheese Curds wants to know about getting in the Discord server. This Discord server is a great way to chat with myself, Kyle Spence, and the team here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Easy ways to do that. Just go into our description of any of our videos, make a $5 or a $50 donation via PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App, depending on if you want to be a monthly subscriber or a yearly subscriber. If you're going to be a monthly subscriber, be sure it's on a recurrent payment so you don't lose your membership after 1 month. But yeah, just label your donation Discord in the comments and you'll get a unique link to join our Discord service. Again, Discord here from the Hawkeye of the Storm is up. It's very easy if you're new to that platform. It's an easy way to interact with us here on the show. Again, Iowa falling to Indiana, final score of 20-15. And Don, anything else? We'll talk Indiana here in the next week. I don't want to bog the show down any further with moving forward and talking about the game 2 weeks away. But anything that we missed or anything you want to add before we wind this thing down?
Well, of course, I haven't had a chance to go back and look at the game. When we talk, whatever the day is we talk again, I'll study the game a lot more closer than what I have right now. That'll probably produce some information that's worth talking about. But I thought our guys gave a great effort, Corey. Hats off to the fans. I thought the crowd noise was about as good as it gets.
Yep.
We tried to get that done. And one reason, I went back and looked. I was curious. Over the last 4 years, we've had 30 home games. Let me back up. The last couple of years, we're 14-2 at home, now 14-3. But if you expand it a little bit more, if you go out to the last 30 games, not 31, we were 24-6. Now we're 24-7. Here's what's kind of nice to talk about that string of the last 31 games. Only twice have we been beaten by more than 9 points. Yeah. We lost by 13 once to number 4 Michigan, and there was a head scratcher against Purdue. We lost 24-7. That's it. Twice have we lost by double digits. Only twice. That's something to be proud of. Nobody comes into Kinnick and embarrasses us. It doesn't happen. We're not going to let it happen.
I'm just baffled by the idea from all these Indiana fans coming into this game that they thought they were going to come in and just embarrass Iowa. It's just totally ludicrous.
They don't understand the tradition of Kinnick.
Yeah, hopefully a couple of them understand it now. And they won today. Credit to the team. But boy, those teams look pretty even. Regardless of the reasons, they would look pretty even on the field today. So for Coach Tom Patterson, I'm Corey Brada here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Thank you for being here. Be sure you join myself and Tyler Kluver live at Big Grove Brewery in Des Moines Friday, the 3rd day of October, 6 p.m. Central Time, and I'll talk to you more tomorrow.